Shalom, Israel. Shalom, shalom. Brother Naquam, watchman for Israel, coming back at you with these precepts. And another cold cut, given, of course, Salaki. And another Monday Night Fire, right? Another Monday Night Fire, giving, of course, all honor and glory to Yahweh. By Shema Mashiach, Malak Yahushai. A double honors to the elect elders of the house of David, those elders that have been in the truth before us for decades and decades, patiently waiting and laboring fervently in the gospel in the last days. Shalom to those elder men. Shalom to all of the mighty apostles, prophets, teachers, evangelists, pastors, men that go out on the highways and byways and doing all things for the elect's sake, pushing this truth, magnifying the ministry, and presenting their body as a living sacrifice. Shalom to those men. Shalom to all of the men that may not be out there in the highways and byways, but they're in this truth. They're getting built up in the spirit. They're praying, they're fasting, they're studying. They're being diligent and abounded in the work of the Lord. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to all of the Aquath out there, the sincere sisters out there, holding it down in the households, reverencing their husbands, being submissive, being diligent, and moving in the spirit of our righteous foremothers. Shalom, shalom. And shalom to all of the ancient men, the widows, the children, and everyone else tuning in live and that will tune in. All praise to Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Shalom, Mariah. Shalom, King.
Shalom, King.
Con, you got out.
All praise to the Most High, man. Lord willing, everybody's on fire through the Spirit, praying, reading, fasting, getting ready for the Feast of Dedications, and ready to answer questions. And Most High willing, through the Spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, we'll be able to answer all the questions that are being brought out.
Con, and we want to continue where we left off because it's our job. Let me get this precept first and foremost. It's our job to be able to go into this. Let's go to Jeremiah 3:15, right? Get the classic and break down the scriptures through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashmi Yahushua. There was a lot of questions that we wasn't able to get to on the last Monday Night Fire, but we're going to do that continuation. Right? A lot of brothers and sisters, they kind of got in there early before we started the live and actually got their questions in, man. Right? So if you got in there early, Salakia, and got your questions in early, all praise to Yahweh Bashmi Yahushua. Right? So let me get this real quick. Jeremiah 3:15. And I will give you pastors according to mine heart, which shall feed you with knowledge and understanding. So it's our job to feed the flock, right? The Lord said, let me get one more real quick before we get into it, right? It's our job to feed the flock with the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, right? This is the book of 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 1, right? The elders which are among you, I exhort, who am also an elder, and a witness of the sufferings of Hamashiach, and also a partaker of the glory that shall be revealed. This is the Apostle Peter speaking to the churches in Asia Minor. Verse 2, feed the flock of the Most High, which is among you, taking the oversight thereof, not by constraint, but willingly, not a filthy lucre, but of a ready mind. So it's the men of the Lord, it's their job to understand what Yahushua told them. Yahushua said, lovest thou me more than these? Peter said, yea, Lord, thou knowest that I love thee. Yahushua said, feed my sheep. And that was done 3 times, man. So if anybody's going to charge you to feed the sheep on the earth amongst men, it would be the Apostle Peter, man, who said, taking the oversight thereof, not by constraint, but willingly. Meaning nobody should have to handcuff you and make you want to do this. This shouldn't be a chore or a burden. Nobody should handcuff you and make you teach and feed the flock, man. You should do this willingly, with a ready mind, a mind ready in sincerity and in truth to restore wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to the people of the Most High, right? And not a filthy lucre, right? Meaning not money. Like when something is lucrative, it's dealing with money and finances, right? So you want to do this out of a good heart, essentially, right? You got it, King.
Khan, and I want to bring this out too. This 1 Peter chapter 3 and verse 15 says, but sanctify the Lord God in your hearts, and be ready always to give an answer to every man that asketh you a reason of the hope that is in you through meekness and fear. So that's a commandment. You never know who you're going to run into. You may be doing your daily shopping, maybe picking up your wife, whatever the case may be, and then run into a brother that may want to understand it or may have a question. So you're able to break down and be an ambassador, like the Lord said, for his name, man, and for this truth. And through the Spirit, let me get this quick precept too in Acts. And also, by answering questions, it magnifies the name of the Lord. So that people that may not be sure about the truth, maybe lukewarm, may have another understanding, can know that this thing, you can't rebuke it. You can't come against it. This is the truth, man. It's the book of Acts, chapter 6 and verse 10. It says, and they were not able to resist the wisdom and the spirit by which he spake. So as you learn and increase in wisdom, nobody could come against his wisdom. Nobody could gainsay or chop down or rebuke or come against or confound the words of the Lord. And by doing this and by making yourself knowledgeable in these things, it chops down doctrines and magnify the name of the Lord.
God. And we're gonna get right into it. They're coming in first come, first serve. The live was scheduled for 6:30. Somebody asked the question at 5:04, right? So they got in there early, right? Elijah Jones, can you expound on the grafting in Romans chapter 11 and verse 16, right? And that's a scripture that Christians mainly use, or Israelites who are in that Christianity doctrine, they use to justify all nations being saved, right? They want the so-called white man in heaven, the Chinese man, the Arab man. But Romans 11, that's it could be a complex breakdown for brothers that are new in the truth. But we'll go into it. We're not going to go through the whole chapter. We'll just break that verse down. And speaking about the Israelite foreigners who are being grafted in along with the circumcision or the Jews. I got a quick precept on that. I'm going to just read it, and then we can go into it. Romans chapter 11 and 16. For if the first fruit be holy, the lump is also holy. And if the root be holy, so are the branches. And you really want to read this entire chapter, because if you just isolate one verse, you'll get jammed up. The Most High is speaking about the fact that all of Israel is not cast off. And he's making an allusion and referencing the law, right? All right, you want to get it? Let me get this real quick. I know you want to get in there. Now, when it says, for if the first fruit be holy, the lump is also holy. You want to go into the law and understand what the Apostle Paul is talking about. This lump is speaking about the dough that was made, or that you would make the cakes from, right? And it was an offering to the Most High. So it's essentially like if you were to take you're making cookies, and that original lump represents the Jews and the circumcision, and then you take lumps off of that and make other cakes and other cookies. Those would be the Gentiles. So meaning they came from that original lump. They came from that holy seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They came from the circumcision. So you can't say that the Israelite foreigners are exiled and exempt from salvation when they come from the same stock as the Jews. That's what it's saying. Now I'm gonna get this precept in the law, so just so brothers understand what that's speaking about, right? Numbers. And if you hold on, one more point. If you say that the law is done away with, how would you explain Numbers 15 chapter? We don't have to read the Old Testament. It would be impossible for you to break down Romans 11 and 16, because you have to go into the book of Numbers and the law, right? Real quick, Numbers chapter 15 and verse 18. Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, when ye come into the land whither I bring you, then it shall be that when ye shall eat of the bread of the land, ye shall offer up a heave offering unto the Lord. And that would be the offering that you would heave up to the Most High. Ye shall offer up a cake of the first of your dough. You see that? A cake of the first of your dough for a heave offering, as ye do the heave offering of the threshing floor. So shall ye heave it of the first of your dough, ye shall give it unto Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai, and heave offering in your generations. So that's the dough, or that lump that Paul is referencing. The first fruit is that main source of dough, and then you would take of that and make these various cakes for Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai. Now the cakes that you made, they're holy, even though they have been taken from that original dough. Just like the Gentiles, the Israelite foreigners are still required to come back to the Most High, do the prophecy, and receive salvation, and they're just as holy as the Jews if you repent and come back to the Most High. Just want to make that one precept, but you got it, King.
Con. That was a good point. And two, when you read verse number 16, it says, for if the first fruits be holy, the lump also is holy. And if the root be holy, so are the branches.
Right.
Now, if the root be holy, like the Most High said, the whole tree can't be corrupt. That's Matthew's the 7th chapter. Let me get this real fast. This is Matthew chapter 7 and verse number 18. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Every tree that bringeth not forth good fruit is hewed down and cast into the fire. Wherefore, by their fruits ye shall know them. So you can't have one righteous so-called white man or one righteous so-called Elamite, Moabite. He's trying to keep the commandments and, he's upright in heart. No, the whole stock of where they come from and their lineage is corrupt. Therefore, all of their fruit and their branches will be corrupt also. When you go to the book, right real fast, of Isaiah, so branches could be men. That's Ezekiel, the 17th chapter, right? Took the highest branch of the cedar, and also in Isaiah, the 11th chapter. So branches could be men, grass could be men, lilies, right? The Most High is big unto husbandry and gardenry, right? This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 11, verse 1. And there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. So out of Jesse's roots will be the stock of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Judah. You understand? So out of his roots was holy. Therefore, we know Hamashiach or Malak Yahushua will be holy. So you can't just say just because something is broken off. And even on a physical level, when it's wintertime, which is symbolic in the scriptures of affliction and judgment and things like that coming to pass, and it being hard, and those sticks break off on a physical tree, they always grow back when it's the springtime. Meaning their stock always comes back to its beginning. You got it.
Yeah, and I just want to get one more precept in the law. This Leviticus 23 and 17. Ye shall bring out of your habitations 2 wave loaves of 2/10 deals. They shall be a fine flour. They shall be baken with leaven. They are the first fruits unto Yahweh. Right? So you want to make sure that you go into the law to understand what that lump is referencing to. Right? It's not talking about a lump of clay or a lump of fat. It's speaking about the dough that was used for the first fruits and that offering of fine flour and cakes to Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. And the first fruit is holy, man. That's the most holiest part. But even those that come after are also holy. And that's why you have that dark saying in Romans 11, likening the Gentiles to branches broken off of a tree and grafted in. Like the brother said, the root is the foundation, dealing with the Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, ultimately up into the circumcision. And those branches are Israelite foreigners who were cut off due to Hellenization and being conquered and losing their heritage, but now they're being grafted in, right? Meaning tied back into that heritage. And they're just as holy as that root. And that's with any tree, right? They receive the same water. They receive the same sunlight. They receive the same nutrients. This is how trees grow. They're essentially one and the same. Now, I got one more quick precept on that. Jeremiah, the 11th chapter. Right? This is Jeremiah chapter 11 and verse, I'm going to start at 17. I believe that's what I want. 16. The Lord called thy name a green olive tree. So always throughout the Bible, we're known as the green olive tree. That's in Psalms, the 52nd chapter, I believe verse 8. Right? It says, I am like a green olive tree in the house of the Most High God. And when you look up the characteristics, if you study botany of an olive trees are just about, indestructible, man. They're fire resistant. They can withstand affliction and like the brother said, they can withstand cold temperatures, like affliction. They can withstand heat. It's hard to burn the olive tree, man. Right? They regenerate. Like you could break off a piece of it and it kind of grows back very, very quickly, more than other trees. And that's the spirit of Israel as a nation. That's why David said that, speaking on behalf of Israel. And that's why the Most High said it in Jeremiah, the 11th chapter. Right? It reads, the Lord called thy name a green olive tree. And each tree has a different characteristic. Like Ezekiel, the Lord likens Zedekiah to a willow tree. And then he likens Adam in Ezekiel 31 to a cedar tree. Willow trees are low and submissive. Cedar trees are high, right? Frankincense trees draw you in like a Song of Solomon. Olive trees produce oil, which is understanding and wisdom. A good green olive tree, fair and of goodly fruit, with the noise of a great tumult, he hath kindled fire upon it, and the branches of it are broken. So that's always been applied to the nation of Israel. Jeremiah didn't prophesy to the so-called white man in this context right here. Right? You got it, King.
And one more thing too with those trees is when you read on 1 Kings the 5th chapter, you know, David got the blueprint, you understand, from Yahushua, and then Yahushua got it from the Most High, gave it to Solomon, and then he built in the temple with the cedar. When you go to Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 17, it says, the beams of our house are cedar, and our raffles of fig. So the Most High always liken cedar and fig together in the scriptures, right? Just like in Isaiah the 14th chapter, when it says no feller has come to lay it or cut us down, right? Let me get that real fast. And it's talking about the elect praising the Most High on earth. Where are those trees that it's talking about? It's the book of Isaiah chapter 14. So these different spirits or these different trees, they carry on a different spirit of what they mean. It's Isaiah chapter 14 and verse number 7. It says, the whole earth is at rest and is quiet. They break forth into singing. Yea, the fig trees rejoice at thee, and the cedars of Lebanon saying, since thou art laid down, no feller is come up against us. Right? So, I mean, you see that where the righteous is likened unto a certain kind of tree, and the wicked. Well, let me get this in Job chapter 15, right? Real fast. It's Job chapter 15 and verse number 30. It says, he shall not depart out of darkness. The flame shall dry up his branches, and by the breath of his mouth shall he go away. So the Lord said by judgment and by nuclear warfare, he's going to dry up all of his branches, man. Let's talk about the so-called white man, right? Rich, Duttish, right? All of these different variances of Esau. The Lord is going to utterly destroy him down to the root. So we know that trees are men, but branches could be men also, or they could be a tribe or a Pacific man.
Right? So all praise to the Most High. That's a good question. Okay, from God's jewelry, Shalom family, when will the elect get their spiritual bodies? In the wilderness? Right? We can go into that. You want to go into it, King? I can go into it. 1 Corinthians.
Yeah, I mean, it don't matter.
All right. I'll just get this quick precept. 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and 51. Right? 1 Corinthians 15 and 51. So you'll get your spiritual body the day that the chariots come and you're transitioned up into the third heaven. Right? 1 Corinthians 15 and 51. Behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed. So everybody is not going to die as a martyr, but everybody, rather you died or rather you're alive, you're all going to be changed. You're going to go through what we call what the so-called white man calls rather a metamorphosis. You're going to change form. Right? Reading on. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump, meaning in the seventh trumpet, for the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. Doesn't mean you change your outfit, or you kind of got just a little bit taller, or you went from dark skin to light skin. That's not what it's talking about. It reads, for this corruptible must put on incorruption, and this mortal must put on immortality. And this is a corruptible body. You feel pain, anxiety, depression, sins. You understand? All types of spirits affect you, all types of anger, and you're subject to sin. But with that spiritual body, that's the beginning of your immortality to come. You got it, King.
And two, I want to touch on that too. Right, when you go to 1 Corinthians, right, chapter 15 and verse, I'm gonna start at 24. It says, then cometh the end, when he shall have delivered up the kingdom to God, even the Father, when he shall have put down all rule and all authority and power. For he must reign till he put all enemies under his feet. The last enemy that shall be destroyed is death, for he have put all things under his feet. But when he saith all things are put under him, it is manifest that it is accepted which did put all things under him. And when all things shall be subdued under him, Then shall the Son also himself be subject unto him that put all things under him, that God may be all in all. So it says the last enemy is going to be death, man. And this is going to happen when? Let me read that again. It says, verse 26, the last enemy that should be destroyed is death, for he hath put all things under his feet. So when the Lord comes to destroy all of these kingdoms, he's also going to destroy death for the Israelites. You understand? That the 2/3 that died, they're going to be born again in the kingdom. So death is going to be destroyed once the Lord comes back to destroy all of these kingdoms too. And then death being destroyed, we're going to change in the air, like the brother put. And this Philippians chapter 3 and verse number 21. It says, who shall change our vile body? And it says our vile body. So we're not going to be sitting up there with a vile body in the chariot. That would be madness. You know, you bleeding, you coughing, you stink, right? You're just leaving the tribulation period. Your mind's not right. It says his glorious body, according to the working whereby he is able even to subdue all things unto himself. So the same way he subdued all things to himself, it said the same thing in 1 Corinthians, the 15th chapter, when he was to do all things to himself, and that last enemy that he destroyed would be death.
Con. That's right. That's right. Okay, next question. God, okay, follow up. If so, it's lucky. If so, Jake is going to buck up after the great deliverance and in a spiritual body. Well, yeah, Jake is going to buck up, right? Because the laws aren't going to be put in your inward parts as soon as the chariots come, right? As soon as you get beamed up, you're not going to have the laws in your inward parts, right? So the laws aren't put into your inward parts, and that second covenant isn't initially fulfilled. See, being beamed up in a chariot and getting a spiritual body is not one of the what is what I'm looking for, clauses in this new contract, the new covenant, right? That's a promise that the Most High gave us pursuant to the book of Psalms, the 17th chapter, Job, the 14th chapter, and many other chapters prophetically. But you also have other prophecies that we still have to deal with, right? And you got it, King. I know you want to get something.
Yeah. And two, when you read Acts, let me read this real quick precept. This Acts chapter 9 and verse number 39. Acts chapter 9 and 39. Then Peter arose and went with them. When he was come, they brought him into the upper chamber, and all the widows stood by him weeping, and shewing the coats of the garments which Dorcas made while she was with them. But Peter put them all forth and kneeled down and prayed, and turning him to the body, said, Tabitha, arise. So Peter had spiritual powers. He was raising the dead. But then when you read all the way to the time of Galatians and the time of Paul, Paul rebuked him for showing favoritism, right? And Paul had to get on him. So even in your mortal body, or having spiritual powers or being able to do certain things through the spirit, through your body, that Yahweh's spirit resting on you, you're still in a mortal body and not having the law in your inward parts, which is going to essentially have you to fall short. You got it. I just wanted to bring out that point.
Right, let me get this in Ezekiel, the 20th chapter. Right, let me get straight to the point. Ezekiel chapter 20 and 34, speaking about the second wilderness. And I will bring you into the wilderness of the people, and there will I plead with you face to face. So believe it or not, Yahweh Shah is going to be there, and you're going to see him face to face. Right now, you see him through this glass darkly, through this word, right? But then you'll see him in person, right? And that's deep. Verse 35, and I will bring you, it's like your 36, in Ezekiel, the 20th chapter. Like as I pleaded with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Egypt, so will I plead with you, said the Lord God. And the Most High, he pleaded with us, and he gave you ultimatums. There was no, well, do you feel like keeping the commandments? Right? Do you feel like keeping this law? Do you feel like doing it? No, it was a get down and lay down type of deal. And that's how it's going to be all over again. That's what it means. He's going to plead with us. Get down and lay down, man. You know, plead doesn't mean I'm begging you, right? You know, that's one term of it, but the Most High is not going to beg man to do a damn thing. Give me the account of the Most High begging flesh, right? To follow his will, man. You know? So the Most High is going to plead with you. Verse 37. And I will, here's the point, and I will cause you to pass under the rod, and I will bring you into the bond of the covenant. So you're going to be passed under the rod, and that's when you enter into the bond of the covenant. And within that wilderness, you're going to receive order instruction. There's a lot that's going to transpire, man. Who you are back on the earth is going to be revealed. Your position, you understand in the kingdom, where you may dwell at. There's a lot of hidden manna that's going to be given to you, and a lot of people may not like it, right? Well, I don't know about this. You can read that in Zechariah the 13th chapter, man. I don't know about so and so, right? I only get 5 cities. Hey, hell, you read that in Matthew the 20th chapter. They murmured against the good man in the house, man. We have wrought but the labor and the heat of the day. Read that in Matthew 20. These men was in the vineyard from the jump, and they murmured against Yahweh Shai, man. Before they received that entered into that kingdom, and they murmured against the good man in the house. So guess what? The Most High said you're going to pass under that rod, and that's an allusion to a shepherd putting sheep back in the sheepfold when the sun goes down. And you're only secure once you're back in that sheepfold. You could be out with the shepherd, and he'll protect you, but your final security at rest is entering to that sheep pen or that sheepfold. And the shepherd counts his sheep and causes them to pass under the rod. And that's when you enter into that rest and that new covenant. You got it, King.
Con. And 2, when you read Luke, the 10th chapter, when Yahweh Shai was sending out the 70 disciples out by twos, he put the spirit on those men. It's the book of Luke, chapter 10, and verse number 18. And he said unto them, I beheld Satan as lightning falling from heaven. Behold, I give unto you power to tread on serpents and scorpions, and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you. Notwithstanding. So these men had the ability, as they went out by twos, to go teach without any wild beasts, anybody overthrowing them. And like it says in Acts, the 13th chapter, don't be scared if I have many people in that city, man. So the Lord protected those men and put the spirit on those men. Notwithstanding, in this rejoice not that the spirits are subject unto you. And then they can heal people, cast out devils through the spirit of the Lord, raise the dead like Peter did. He said, don't rejoice because spirits are subject unto you. A lot of people put a big spirit on the immortal body, but it has to be complete by a mental thing. Because you could be strong like Judas Maccabees. You could go to war like David, but it's all within your spirit and you keeping these law, statutes, and judgments. Hey, David was leaping over walls, man, killing 10,000s of men. Hey, Joshua stretched out his hand and the whole army went forth, man, and didn't stop till there was none standing left. It says, unto you, but rather rejoice because your names are written in heaven. So you see without the scriptures that many men had spiritual powers and a body raising from the dead, and the spirit of Yahweh shall rest on them. But nevertheless, through the laws being in your inward parts, that's when you're going to be perfect. And the Lord said this real fast too. It says righteousness make you immortal in wisdom of Solomon.
Right.
So when you're righteous, we know through the law in Deuteronomy 6:25, that's the law and the faith. Now, let me get this quick precept.
Come.
Right. It's the book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 1 and verse 15. So just because your body changes physically doesn't mean that laws are going to enter into your mind. It says, for righteousness is immortal. So when you're righteous, meaning having a law within yourself, that's when you're able to be near unto the Father and the Son. You got it.
Con. And I just want to get the classic, right? Just so brothers understand what we mean about the laws being in your inward parts. Right? This is it's like, let me get that. I wanted something else, but I'm gonna get this in Hebrews chapter 8 and verse 9. I'm gonna get straight to the point, verse 10. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, said the Lord. I will put my laws into their mind, right? And write them in their hearts. There is a specific time that's going to happen. It's not going to happen in Jacob's trouble. It's not going to happen in the FEMA camp. It's not going to happen when you read Revelation, the 15th chapter in the beginning. That every prophecy is not just going to come to pass once you get beamed up in the chariot, man. There's a plethora of prophecies that happen after you get beamed up. That's not the end all be all, right? And we have to acknowledge that and understand that, right? Reading on. For this is the covenant. Slacky, let me read on. I will put my laws into their mind and write them in their hearts. And I will be to them a people. Slacky, be to them a God, and they shall be to me a people. And they shall not teach every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, Know the Lord, for all shall know me, from the least to the greatest. For I will be merciful to their unrighteousness, and their sins and their iniquities will I remember no more. Right? And I got one more real quick. This Ezekiel 11 chapter. Right? One more. This Ezekiel chapter 11 and verse 17. It reads, Therefore say, Thus saith the Lord God, I will even gather you from the people, and will assemble you out of the countries where ye have been scattered, and I will give you the land of Israel. So you're going to be taken from the four corners of the earth, put in the land, and they shall come thither, and they shall take away all the detestable things thereof, and all the abominations thereof from thence. So you see the chronology of prophecy being beamed up, and then having those things removed from you. Just like we got taken out of Egypt. We wasn't taken out of Egypt and we was automatically knowing the law. We had to know that we were taught the law in the wilderness. We weren't taught the law as we went through the Red Sea, right? It reads, and I will give them one heart, and I will put a new spirit within you, and I will take the stony heart out of the flesh, and will give them a heart of flesh. And that's not written in 1 Corinthians, the 15th chapter, right? That's after 1 Corinthians chapter 15, right? But you got it, King.
Yeah, that's it on that.
Okay. All right. From HBKN. Is there a reason the Most High wanted the beast and cattle destroyed also with men, referencing 1 Samuel chapter 15 and verse 3, right? Dealing with Saul and Amalek.
I got a precept about
Okay, well, I'll do you think.
I mean, essentially, let me get this quick precept. A beast could be according to your household, man. Hey, the Most High even wanted the beast to fast in the book of Jonah, the 3rd chapter. Let me get this quick precept real fast. And Tobias with his dog on his journeys. That'll be a part of your possession. Right? Let me get this quick precept. It's the book of Jonah, chapter 3, and verse, I'm going to start at 5. So the people of Nineveh believed God and proclaimed a fast and put on sackcloth from the greatest of them even to the least of them. For the word came unto the king of Nineveh, and he arose from his throne, and he laid his robe from him and covered him with sackcloth and sat in ashes. And he caused it to be proclaimed and published throughout through Nineveh by the decree of the king and his nobles, saying, Let neither man nor beast nor herd nor flock taste anything, let them not feed nor drink water, but let man and beast be covered with sackcloth and cry mightily unto God. Yea, let them turn every one from his evil way and from the violence that is in their hands. So, I mean, you have a possession, which are your cattle, which belong to you. Like Abraham, he had his flocks. Now, in the law, where we don't got to get too deep into it, but if one of the let me get it, man. And you have to pay for the sins of what your animal did, man. So your animal is a large representation of you and your household too, right? This is the book Exodus chapter 22 and verse. I'm gonna start at 10. It says, if a man deliver unto his neighbor an ass or an ox or a sheep or any beast and keep it, and it die or be hurt or driven away, no man seeth it, then shall an oath be of the Lord between them both, that he have not put his hand into his neighbor's goods. So that will be a part of your neighbor's goods. And the owner of it shall accept thereof, and he shall not make it good. And if it be stolen from him, he shall make restitution unto the owner thereby. If it be torn in pieces, then let him bring it for a witness, and he shall not make good for that which was torn. And if a man borrow aught of his neighbor, right, and it be hurt or die, the owner thereof being not with it, he shall surely make good. But if the owner thereof be with it, he shall not make it good. If it be an higher thing, it came for his hire. So even in the law, there's laws and decrees and commandments on your beast, man. And the Lord will judge you for not keeping these laws. And if one of your beasts had torn in pieces somebody or XYZ, I mean, you have to own up to that according to the law. So that's a part of your inheritance or your goods, right? You got it, King.
Yeah, and that's an excellent point. And I'm holding Proverbs chapter 27 and verse 23. Right? It reads, "Be thou diligent to know the state of thy flocks, and look well to thy herds. For riches are not forever, and doth the crown endure to every generation." I mean, if you're not diligent and being circumspect over your cattle, somebody can rob it and lose it, and you lose your wealth, right? It reads, "The hay appeareth, and the tender grass showeth itself, and herbs of the mountains are gathered. The lambs are for thy clothing, and the goats are the price of the field. And thou shalt have goat's milk enough for thy field, for the food of thy household, and for the maintenance of thy maidens." So cattle was your livelihood, man. Beasts is how you survived. So the Most High wants to completely eradicate everything. You take away a man's cattle, you take away it all. Did not Saul put a decree out and say he was going to destroy everybody's cattle and take everybody's damn oxen and cattle in the book of 1 Samuel? And guess what happened when he put that threat out there? Everybody came. Everybody came immediately to fight against the heathen, man. So you having oxen and cattle is literally your substance. That's your livelihood, right? And I wanted to get this in the law, right? This Exodus chapter 21 and verse 28. It reads, "If an ox gore a man that they die, then the ox shall be surely stoned, and his flesh shall not be eaten, but the owner of the ox shall be quit." So if you got an ox that got horns and he just pierced a man and stab him with his horn, and you got to kill that ox, man, right? You can't eat it because you have to kill it, but the owner's life, he survived. He didn't know it was a freak accident. The owner, he get to escape. That's what it means, he shall be quit, right? There's no charge on him. Verse 29. "But if the ox were wont to push with his horn in time past," then if your ox has a reputation of causing hell, and you know about it, and everybody knows about it, you're held responsible. It's like you got a dog, he just bite people, man. You can have one freak accident. "Oh, my dog bit you." He's not like that. But if your dog is always causing hell, you gonna have to deal with it, man. You know your dog got a problem. You know this ox got a spirit on it. That's what it means. "But if the ox were wont to push with his horn in time past, and have been testified to his owner, and he hath not kept them in, but that he hath killed a man or a woman, the ox shall be stoned, and the owner also shall be put to death." So they go hand in hand, man. And remember, the Lord said, kill all of the beasts because that's your livelihood. And the Most High made war with Amalek. When the Most High goes to war with particular nations, like the 7 nations in the land of Canaan or the Amalekites, he's about completely annihilating them, man. Their substance, their land. Certain one more point, I'm gonna get the precept, Lord willing. Certain wars, you actually take stones and mar the land so they can't grow anything, or you salt the land, right? You put salt all on people's land after you kill them so they can't grow any more crops. So there are certain things that even in the law in Deuteronomy 20 and 21, you can't even cut down certain trees because the trees are for the man's food during a siege. So the Most High deals with natural resources, agriculture, husbandry, even in warfare. So when you utterly annihilate a nation, you'll cut their trees down, you'll salt their ground, stone their field, and burn their city with fire, man. Certain wars, you just take men captive. There's a lot. We're not going to go through a whole breakdown on war, but these are certain judgments that happens in war. You got it, King.
Con. Yeah, there you go.
Con, and I let me get that one quick precept, Salakia, because I kind of paraphrased it. But let me get this in a book. Right, this Salakia. I may have to find it. Right, but the Most High had a particular man who used stones to mar the land. Right, I'll find it in due season, Lord willing. But these are things that happen in war. Okay, next question. Can you break down 2nd Esdras chapter 1 and 24? Right, I want to find that precept. Salakia.
All right, this is the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 1 and verse 24. And it reads, right, I'm going to start at verse, this whole thing is fire. I'm going to start at verse 22. Thus saith the Almighty Lord, when ye were in the wilderness and the river of the Amorites being athirst and blaspheming my name, I gave you not fire for your blasphemies, but cast a tree in the water and made the river sweet. What shall I do unto thee, O Jacob, thou Judah? Wouldest not obey me? I would turn to me, so I could turn me to other nations, and unto those will I give my name, that they may keep my statutes. Seeing ye have forsaken me, I will forsake ye also. And when ye desire me to be gracious unto you, I shall have no mercy upon you, not hear you, for ye have defiled your hands with blood, and your feet are swift to commit manslaughter. So I'm going to go to Ezekiel, the 3rd chapter. Right? Let me get this quick precept. It's the book of Ezekiel, chapter 3. And I'm going to start at verse 4. It says, and he said unto me, son of man, go get thee unto the house of Israel and speak with my words unto them. For thou art not sent to a people of a strange speech and of an hard tongue, but to the house of Israel, not to many people of a strange speech and of a hard language, whose words thou canst not understand. Surely had I sent thee to them, they would have hearkened unto me, so like unto thee. But the house of Israel will not hearken unto thee, for they will not hearken unto me, for all the house of Israel are imputed in hard heart. Now, when you go to 2nd Esdras, the 1st chapter, it's just the Most High saying that he's done all these things for us, and we still turn that back on us. Right? When you go to the book of Micah, let me get this quick precept in Micah. Right, the 6th chapter. It's Micah chapter 6 and verse number 1. It says, hear ye now what the Lord saith. Arise, contend thou before the mountains, and let the hills hear thy voice. Hear ye, O mountains, the Lord's controversy, and ye strong foundations of the earth, for the Lord have a controversy with his people, and he will plead with Israel. O my people, what have I done unto thee? So the Lord said, I done all these things for you. What have I done to thee? What's my fault that you're turning back from me? It says, and wherein have I wearied thee? Testify against me. So that's the same spirit the Lord is saying, look, you don't want to listen to me and keep these commandments. I'm going to turn from you. And when it says in verse 24, and you got it after this, what shall I do unto thee? I mean, what more could I do? O Jacob, thou Judah, wouldest not obey me, I will turn me to other nations, and unto those will I give my name, that they may keep my statutes. Well, you got it. I'm gonna get some precepts out.
Yeah, I just want to that for that last question, I want to get this precept because I found it real quick. This 2nd Kings. Just want to go back to that real quick, and I'm gonna get one more in this question. Right, 2nd Kings chapter 3 and 19. And ye shall smite every fenced city and every choice city, and ye shall fell every good tree, meaning you cut down all of the trees, and stop all wells of water, and mark every good piece of land with stones. So that was just back to that last question. I was looking for that precept. You destroy people's land, cut the trees down, stop the wells of water. These are things that happen in war. That's what that links up with destroying the beast. That's the livelihood. And dealing with this question real quick, when the Most High said that he would turn other nations, it's not speaking about the so-called white man, right? And the so-called Chinese man and the so-called Arab man. And 2nd Esdras 1 and 24, the other nations are speaking about a prophecy of Israelites being scattered amongst these nations and taking on the traits of these nations, and then in fact being called by these nations. Same thing we read in Romans 11. I want to get one precept on that real quick. All right, let me go to Acts, the 2nd chapter. Right, real quick. This Acts, you can see where Israel is being called other nations. Acts chapter 2 and verse 5, and I'm going to jump down. And there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, devout men out of every nation under heaven. Verse 9. here's what the Israelites were being called: Parthians, Medes, Elamites, and the dwellers of Mesopotamia. You had Israelites being called Medes, man. And in Judea and Cappadocia and Pontus and Asia. You had Asians, you had Medes, you had Romans, you had Egyptians, but they're all Israelites. Phrygia and Pamphylia in Egypt, and in parts of Libya about Cyrene. Those are Africans, right? So-called Africans. And strangers of Rome, Jews and proselytes, Cretes and Arabians. We do hear them speak in our tongues the wonderful works of the Most High, right? So you had Israelites scattered in all these other nations, and the Most High didn't just go to the Jews only. He also went to Israelites that were scattered abroad. So it's a prophecy about a reconciliation of Israel and these other nations. You got it, King.
Kind too. The Lord prophesied that in Deuteronomy, right? The 32nd chapter. That's the book of Deuteronomy, right? Chapter 32, and I'm gonna start at verse 19. And when the Lord saw it, he abhorred them because of the provoking of his sons and of his daughters. And he said, I will hide my face from them. That's saying the same thing he's saying in 2nd Esdras 1 and 25. He says, then, Salakia, and he said, I will hide my face from them. I will see their end shall be. For they are a very forward generation, children in whom is no faith. They have moved me to jealousy with that which is not God. They have provoked me to anger with their vanities. And I will move them to jealousy with those that are not a people. I will provoke them to anger with the foolish nation. Right? So that's the same spirit the Most High was saying as a prophecy coming to pass, as well as them being spread abroad, taking on these different names.
Con. That's a good question. Okay, seeking salvation. Shalom, Malaks, or Shalom. Who wrote the book of Maccabees? The water for the edification. Well, there's no specific author by name who wrote the book of Maccabees. There's a lot. Certain books like Kings, Chronicles, Maccabees. What's another one? Let's say there are certain books that don't have a specific author, right? But you have scribes that gave an account historically of what happened during these times, right? Certain books you have an author, of course, Jeremiah, certain epistles, First Samuel, first 5 books of the Bible, but there's really no account on certain books, right? Ruth, but I want to get this precept real quick. This First Maccabees chapter 5 and 41, right? First Maccabees 5 and 41. This is what Timotheus said to Judas. They said if Judas come over on our side, he's going to win. But if he's still over there, we're going to win. And not too many words. But here's the point. But if he be afraid and camp beyond the river, we will go over unto him and prevail against him. Now, when Judas came near the brook, so like he caused the scribes of the people to remain by the brook, unto whom he gave commandment, saying, suffer no man to remain in the camp, but let all come to the battle. So when generals and men were rolling, they kept recorders with them and scribes to write down these documents, or it's like these accounts, these feats, these expeditions. Every general and king has done it. Who do you think gave an account of what happened in Alexander's time? Huh? They wrote down the casualties, how many men died, how many soldiers they lost, right? What happened? Did they take the king captive? They would sit down and talk after the battle, and they would have a man just sit down, probably in chains, just write down whatever he said, man. That's a lot of the epistles. Paul speaking, Timothy's writing them, Jeremiah speaking, Baruch writing. So you always had scribes who played an integral role when it comes to recording what happened at particular events. And it shows you playing upon tables that Judas, not only did he have captains and mighty men, but he had scribes that rode with him to actually write down these accounts of what transpired. You got it, King.
And 2, line me back on that. This First Maccabees chapter 9 and verse number 18. It says, Judas also was killed, and the remnant fled. Then Joshua and Simon took Judas their brethren and buried him in the sepulchre of his fathers in Modin, Moreover, they bewailed him, and all Israel made great lamentation for him, and mourned many days, saying, how is the valiant man fallen that delivered Israel? As for the other things concerning Judas and his wars, and the noble acts which he did, and his greatness, they are not written, for they were very many. So, I mean, when he was going to all of these different places, slaying up all of these heathens, it had to be recorders and scribes writing all of these things down. They say he did so many of them that they wasn't even written down, man. So that just goes to show you how many scribes it takes and how many scribes they were in the ancient world, because they were going to war back to back to back. And they said that all of the acts and the noble things that he did and all of his greatness, they're not even written because there are many.
And there's a man by the name of Jason of Cyrene, right? So I'm going to pull this up. I'm not going to pull it up on the screen. You can look it up. Jason of Cyrene, you can also read him in the book of 2 Maccabees. Now, originally in a historic work, it was 5 volumes, right? You can read that in 2 Maccabees, the 2nd chapter. They said, we will take these 5 volumes and abridge it into one book. And it's a matter of labor and sweat. And you had a chief scribe by the name of Jason of Cyrene who worked with other scribes to actually give this account. Now, this is I'm gonna read this of Jason of Cyrene. Was a Hellenistic Jew who lived around the middle of the 2nd century, from around 160 to 110 BCE. He is the author of a 5-volume history of the Maccabean revolt, which subsequently became a lost work. His history was preserved indirectly in an abridgment by an unknown Egyptian Jew, right? The book of 2 Maccabees, which was eventually included in the Septuagint, the Greek version of the Israelite scriptures. 2 Maccabees was eventually recognized as a deuterocanonical book included in the Catholic and Orthodox Christian biblical canon. So you had this man, and I'm going to get the precept, Jason of Cyrene, who was one of the chief scribes who actually gave an account, but in terms of who is the actual man writing down these feats, that's not really documented. And that's what we're going into. Now, this is 2 Maccabees chapter 2 and 23. It reads, all these things I say, being declared by Jason of Cyrene in 5 books. And we don't have all 5 of those books, the original accounts that this man wrote. Like Arai brought out the precept. Some things not even written, you know? It says, I say being declared by Jason of Cyrene, and Cyrene is a place in Northern Africa and Libya, right? In 5 books, we will essay to abridge in 1 volume. For considering the infinite number and the difficulty which they find that desire and to look into the narrations of the story for the variety of the matter, we have been careful. So he had men with him, right? There's no account of these men's names, but he said we have been careful that they that will read may have delight, and that they and that they that are desirous to commit to memory might have ease, and that all into whose hands it comes might profit. So they wanted this to be simple. The original Maccabees is already long. Each chapter is damn near 65 verses. It takes about 8 to 10 minutes to read 1 chapter, man. And that's still making it short. So imagine how long it used to be, right? One more verse. Verse 26. 2 Maccabees 2 and 26. Therefore, to us that have taken upon this painful labor of abridging, it was not easy, but a matter of sweat and watching. So imagine like you watch a great movie, there's so much to say, but you only get 3 minutes to say it. That's a hard time, huh? And you got to write it out. A 3-hour movie, action-packed from start to finish, you got 3 minutes to explain it. And that's sweat, man. Where do I begin? Right? Do I start here? Do I start from the middle? Okay, I'm gonna leave that part out because it kind of happened here, and that's what we have now, 1st and 2nd Maccabees, right? But you got it, King.
I mean, we just brought out the example too with Jeremiah and Baruch. Yep. So I mean, it's the same spirit when you go into those things. And in 2nd Esdras, the 14th chapter. Yep. Let me get this real fast. So Ezra had his scribes with him, through the spirit. writing down all of the books the Most High gave to him. It's the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 14, in verse, right, number 40. It says, and I took it, and I drank, and when I had drunk of it, my heart uttered understanding, and wisdom grew in my breast. For my spirit strengthened my memory, and my mouth was open and shut no more. And the highest gave understanding unto the 5 men, and they wrote the wonderful vision of the night, and were told which knew not. And they sat 40 days, and they wrote in the day, and at night they ate bread. So, I mean, a lot of the times the Most High may not give the scribes. Sometimes the Most High may give it. Sometimes the Most High may not give it. So in certain accounts, the Most High gives the account of men that help scribe out certain accounts, and sometimes he doesn't. But nevertheless, there's scribes all throughout the scriptures.
That's a good question. Okay, only a remnant. And again, let me put this out there. Like last week, man, it's 7:30 p.m. This question we're answering is from 5:12 p.m. So every question from 5:12 up till 7:30, we're going to try to cover as much as we can. This question's from 2 hours ago. Well, 1 hour damn near into the live, right? Now, you may say you guys are spending too much time on the question. I want my question answered. You guys are well, look, it's all according to the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, man. All right, we don't want to, fight against the spirit, man. Sometimes the spirit will have us kind of be brief with it. Sometimes the spirit will have us be long. It's all according to the will of the Most High, Okay, so what lineage was Luke from? All right, now Luke, the apostle, I don't believe there's an actual account of what tribe he's from. Now we do know that he came from a prominent background, right? Because he was a physician, right? Or it's like a doctor, right? Or the physician. They're both mentioned, right? Let me get this real quick. Let's see. Luke, and let me say this too. When you read a Luke is written in a more, concise, more detailed way than Mark, right? Or Matthew, right? Or John, right? Remember, some of the men that wrote with Yahweh Shai, they didn't learn letters. They didn't go to the top synagogues. They didn't have teachers, right? Certain men like Paul, certain men like Silas, they were Romans. They came from a different background, right? Certain men like Peter and John, they came from the hood, man. Uptown, Galilee, right? Yahweh Shai was from Nazareth. But you can read, when you read Luke, you can tell through the spirit that the way that it's written is written from a more so-called educated perspective that the spirit gave the apostle. Now, I want to get believe that 2 Timothy, Luke the physician, if I'm not mistaken.
Colossians 4:14.
Okay.
I know one of them off the top of the head.
Okay, Khan, that might be okay.
Khan, you got it.
No, go ahead.
Khan, and when you go into the history, it say many scholars believe that Luke was a physician who lived in the Hellenistic city of Antioch and ancient Syria, although some other scholars and theologians think Luke was a Hellenistic Jew, right? So most definitely want to get a good, strong understanding on the witnesses through the scholars, because a lot of them put a lot of different things down. But as you go into it, right, we know that through the spirit, like the brother was going into, he was a highly educated man to be a physician. Everybody's not a physician. When you go to the book, let me get this quick precept in the time of Nehemiah, right? It's the book of Nehemiah, chapter 3 and verse number 8. It says, next unto him repaired Uzziel, the son of Haranah, the goldsmith. So, we had goldsmiths, we had apothecaries. It says, next unto him also repaired Hananiah, the son of the apothecaries, and they fortified Jerusalem unto the bordered wall. Now, with that being said, he's bringing up men, the chief of these men, to build up the house of the Lord, the walls, right? And everything. Now, when you go to the book of 1 Esdras, this is what the king told Ezra about going back to build up everything. It's the book of First Esdras, right? Chapter 8 and verse number 8. It says, now the copy of the commission, which was written in Artaxerxes the king, and come to Esdras the priest, the reader of the law of the Lord, is this that followeth. King Artaxerxes unto King Ezra the priest and reader of the law of the Lord sendeth greetings. Having determined to deal graciously, I have given order that such of the nation of the Jews and of the priests and of the Levites being within our realm are willing and desirous should go with thee unto Jerusalem. And as many, therefore, as have a mind thereunto, let them depart with thee, as it has seemed good both to me and my 7 friends, the counselors. So when he was giving men charge to go up the build, and even the king said, only take the chiefest of those men that have the mind to work, that you seem fit for the office. So with those offices, that was a high matter, man. You didn't just have anybody that, who has experience painting. Then everybody just raised their hand and then you just start spraying up stuff, man. No, these men were real educated and smart and wise unto building, husbandry, apothecaries, goldsmiths, all for the building up of the temple of the Lord. So these men weren't just anybody's. The same with Luke. You had to have a high background to be able to do that type of work, being a physician.
Yeah, and just dealing with it historically, when you go into it, like Timothy's father in Acts 16 chapter, Timothy's father was a Greek, right? So he had understanding of the Greek philosophy. Like the Lord said in 1 Corinthians, the 1st chapter, the Jews require a sign, but the Greeks seek after wisdom. So there was a lot of so-called wisdom from the so-called white man that our people followed. Man, you had Epicureans, you had Stoics in Acts the 17th chapter who followed these various philosophies. You had men in Athens that was men of renown, right? You had men that had these occupations, man. Everybody wasn't a fisherman. Like John, it's like James and John and Andrew and Peter, man. Everybody wasn't a carpenter. That's like now, people that go to trade school, carpentry, right? Fishermen, that's like Yahushua and, some of the apostles. And then you got men like Luke, man, right? And other men who had different occupations. Now, when you go into it, this is an article, like I said, I'm not going to pull it up on your own, right? This is medicine in ancient Rome, right? Being a physician. It reads, medicine in ancient Rome was highly influenced by ancient Greek medicine, but also developed new practices through the knowledge of the Hippocratic corpus. Right? I'm bringing this up because Luke would have had knowledge of this type of environment or this type of lifestyle, or would have went and had learning on this level, right? And that's why, we can attest that a lot of these scholars are saying that he would come from more of a Hellenized background due to the understanding that he had. And for brothers that don't know, he's also the author of the book of Acts, right? Luke and Acts was written by the apostle Luke. It reads, I'm going to jump down. There's a Slakia, it says, Dioscorides was a Roman army physician. Cyrannus was a representative for the methodic school of medicine. So the ancient Romans had schools of medicine, right? They had knowledge of medicine, ailments, treatments, healing, ophthalmology, urology. They dealt with forceps, scalpels, right? And all types of things, man. So you would have had to been on a certain level and had money. This stuff wasn't free, right? You had men that had money. You had men that didn't have money, man. Even the centurion in Acts 22nd chapter said, with a great lump of sum, I have bought my freedom. And Paul said I was freeborn. So, even societal classes of people can be seen through the occupations. In the Bible, you had men that grew up in Caesar's palace. You had a man that grew up with Herod the Tetrarch. So he had that man had a let me get that precept real quick. That man had a heavy upbringing, man. Right? Let me get this real quick. This is the book of Salakia, Acts. Hold on, you got it. Let me get this precept.
All right, so let me get this quick precept. In Acts.
I got it real quick. I found it.
You got it.
All right, this Acts 13:1. Now there were in the church that was at Antioch certain prophets and teachers, as Barnabas and Simeon, that was called Niger, and Lucius of Cyrene, and Manaen, which had been brought up with Herod, the tetrarch, and Saul. So if you was brought up with Herod, wasn't brought up somewhere in the desert, man. He didn't live the life of John the Baptist. He had to find the schools. Even in Galatians, I'm doing a lot of paraphrasing for sake of time. Galatians, the 4th chapter, speaks of tutors and governors, right? Schoolmasters. Paul is speaking about the Hellenistic lifestyle of schoolmasters, tutors, and governors who are mentors to Israelite men and taught them these different things in a Hellenized lifestyle. And you had men that grew up with Herod the Tetrarch. So these men didn't have the same background as a lot of other men. And Luke is a clear example of that. But in terms of what tribe he's from, it's not documented. But you got it, King.
And when you read Acts the 17th chapter, it goes into the schools that they had, as well as Acts the 5th chapter.
Yeah.
Right. Being brought up from the feet of Gamaliel. You know, they had all of these things in Jerusalem, huh? Jerusalem wasn't just a bunch of dirt roads and just grass growing from patchy patch like you see now from Amalek inhabited in the land. It's the book of Acts chapter 5, right? And verse number 34. Then stood there up one in the council, a Pharisee named Gamaliel, a doctor of the law, had in reputation among all the people, and commanded to put the apostles forth a little space. So, I mean, they had colleges in Jerusalem, they had synagogues, and they had things where men would get up and get tutored, man. Hey, Paul went up to Jerusalem to get the word, to be taught. So all of these things, you know, we had men of high stature and understanding.
And I want to get one more on that. I kind of paraphrased it, but this is Galatians chapter 4 and verse 1. Now I say that the heir, as long as he is a child, differeth nothing from a servant, though he be Lord of all, but is under tutors and governors until the time appointed by the Father. So you had different lifestyles, man. You had lifestyles where you had men that had elder men that raised them up, tutors and governors. When you go to Galatians, the 3rd chapter, I'm going to go into that Greek word for schoolmaster. It reads Galatians 3:24. Wherefore the law was our schoolmaster to bring us into Hamashiach, that we might be justified by faith. So here's that word schoolmaster in the Greek, right? Let me pull that up. I'm going to go to the blue letter, and I'm going to type that in so brothers can see what's going on, right? And the church of Galatia in Asia Minor, they would know about that reference. That word is pedagogos, right? It reads, a tutor, a guardian and guide of boys. Among the Greeks and the Romans, the name was applied to trustworthy slaves who were charged with the duty of supervising the life and morals of boys belonging to the better class. The boys were not allowed so much as to step out of the house without them before arriving to the age of manhood. So you had different classes of people, right? You got it, King.
We can go to the next one.
All right, next question. Malak Yahawada, Shalom Mak. Who are the modern day Philistines? Right? You want to get that, King? I can get in there.
I go to it. Okay. All right, it's the book of Genesis. And did you pull up the blue letter for Genesis 10 and 14? But this it's the book of Genesis, chapter 10, and I'm gonna start at 6, and then I'm gonna jump all the way down right to 15. Right, and 2, I got some notes. I did an in-depth breakdown. I don't know if I can't even share my screen. Let me see if I can send these to you. I'm gonna try to send those to you, King.
Yeah, and before we get into the modern day Philistines, a lot of the when you go into the and he was going to go into the Genesis the 10th chapter, right? So this is Genesis chapter 10, and I'm gonna read verse 13. Now these are the sons of Ham, right? And Mizraim, those are your modern day Egyptians, Martizarium, begat Ludum and Anamim and Lahabim and Neptuhim and Pathrusim and Kasulam, out of whom came Philistim and Caphtorim. So the Philistines, those are Hamites, modern day so-called or modern day Africans, right? Now Philistim, let's go into this, right? So like you bear with me. Right now, Philistim is another way of saying Philistines, an inhabitant of Philistia. Now, Philistia is a region, when you look geographically, southeast of the land of Judah, off that coast with their major cities, Ashkelon, Ekron, Gath, Gaza, right? They have major cities that you read all throughout the book of 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, etc. Now, the Philistines came out of the land of Ham and they dwelt in that region in the portion given to Canaan. Right now, the Canaanites had that land, but you have Philistines that dwelt amongst them. Now, the Israelites were commissioned by Yahweh Basham Yahushua to colonize that land and take down those 7 nations, but those Philistines, which are Hamites, actually dwelt amongst them, right? And they actually go back to the sons of Martizarium and those other men that came from that son, right? Just giving you a more of a historical aspect of it. Now, a lot of scholars would say they came from Caphtor, and Caphtor is the biblical land of Crete, right? And they say they came down and they dwelt there, right? But you got it, King.
Khan, I was going to bring out the point you just brought out in Genesis, the 10th chapter. It's going to start at verse 5 and then jump down to verse 14 and then going into the Hebrew. But, you know, yeah, there you go.
Go ahead.
I was about to say, and some names don't switch up from the ancient text. You understand? Like Egypt. That's still a term used today. You know, you still got Philistines. You know, certain words are Ethiopians. You know, understand? Those are biblical nationalities, not in the Hebrew, but as it's translated, that are still terms today. You got it.
Yeah, and I want to go into this, right? I may save it and go into it. And these are good questions, right? Like always, brothers and sisters are asking beautiful questions. We touching on geography, right? We touching on the Hebrew, right? We're touching on prophecy, right? We're touching on a lot through the spirit. Now, I'm going to go to Joel chapter 3 and deal with the etymology. This is Joel chapter 3 and verse 4. It reads, "Yea, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coast of Palestine? Will ye render me a recompense? And if ye recompense me, swiftly and speedily will I return your recompense upon your own head." So the Most High is judging men of Tyre and Zidon. Now, Tyre and Zidon, they go back to Ham, the Hamites. Now, Palestine, you don't read about Palestine in Genesis, the 10th chapter, but Palestine goes back to the Philistines. Now, here's the etymology behind the word Palestine, right? Now, etymology meaning the study of the origin of words or the study of truth, right? From the Latin, Palestina, name of a Roman province. From the Greek, Palestine. From the Hebrew, Palashath, Philistia, land of the Philistines. That's why when they talk about Palestine, it actually goes back to the Philistines, right? It goes back to the Philistines. Now, if you look up the modern day Palestinians, they really are saying I'm a modern day Philistine. But you'll see Israeli people, so-called Jews, Jewish, bear that title of a Palestinian, right? But they're really saying they're a Philistine, which is madness. And then you have Ethiopians or Cushites who say that they're Palestinian because they dwell in that land. See, just because you inhabit a land does not give you the right to claim that ancient lineage and a heritage. And then you have Hamites that dwell in that land and Greek babies. There's people that dwell in the land of Israel now who call it the land of Palestine. So you're saying the land of Israel is essentially the land of the Philistines. Now David and our forefathers fought hard for the land of Israel, man, to kill the Philistines. But now people are fighting over Palestine because you're saying that when you say that, that's why it's important to understand etymology and words. You can't just say stuff, man, based off of the academia of the so-called white man. Palestine is not a land given to the Philistines. That land is for the so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American man, the Israelite man, right? The Philistines had their own land coming out of the land of Ham. You understand? But now you have many people today who live in the land of Israel who say that they're Palestinian, which is ridiculous because Palestinus, or that goes back to the Roman or the Latin, right? The Romans who spoke the Latin actually called and bear that the origin of that name Palestine, right? So they're Hamites, but modern day Philistines are Palestinians, but they're not really Philistines, if that makes sense. You know, so that's oh, you got it, King.
Yeah, I was about to say, I sent to the email the in-depth breakdown on all of the Africans, their names in the Hebrew, and precepts to go with it, through the Spirit. You know, most High willing, you know, we can either bring that up or we could go into another breakdown on it another time, however the Spirit go. But like the brother was saying, you know, that's why you gotta read Genesis, man. Genesis is a mighty book. It goes into lineage, right? It goes into the beginning, our beginning, right? It's deep, dark mysteries and similitudes in there. It's prophecy. It lets you know who each individual tribe is today. You know, it's a track record of our forefathers from the beginning. You know, the Most High coming to them. I mean, this is an extremely mighty book. And going into the Table of Nations, every single time you read something, you want to brush up on it 7 times stronger than you read it before. Like if you read Leviticus, you know, don't just read over, you understand, the 11th chapter, or read over the dietary law of Deuteronomy, the 14th chapter. You want to dive into these things and go into the etymology and what these words mean. Because you don't want to just stop at ox or stop at swine or stop at swan or things like that, because these creatures have a family. And when you go into it, it breaks down other so-called animals and creatures. You know, so you always want to dive deeper every single time you read. You don't want to stay on a surface level, right? So let me get this quick precept in First Samuel.
And I don't have what you sent.
Okay, you went to Watchman for Israel 77?
No, I can't get to that from where I'm at. Okay,
calm. Well, yeah, that's most I will, and we could bring it out on a video or something. But nevertheless, I know brothers could see this. But you got the different sons. On into, you know, what it mean in the Hebrew. Most I willing, we could do an in-depth breakdown on that.
No doubt. That was on the old Cold Cut channel, right?
Yeah.
Lot of them videos, man.
It's a lot of edification on there.
Hey, I meant to tell you on a side note, and just brothers know as well. Casadia has the hard drive with a lot of the old videos on it, even from the old Adam Abbott channel and all the old cold cuts from the first Cold Cut channel. We're gonna start. Hundreds of videos, man. Just holding on to it, right? Not letting nobody know, but that's okay. Right? We're gonna start putting a lot of those old videos back up, man. A lot of those old breakdowns and classics, Cold Cuts classics. Okay, Shalom. Doesn't Mark chapter 7 and 27 line up with Romans chapter 1 and 16 and Romans chapter 2 and 9? All right, let's deal with it. Right, Mark 7 and 27. All right, let's go to it. Right, this is St. Mark chapter 7, and I'm gonna just read it. In 27. But Yahushua said unto her, let the children first be filled, for it is not meet to take the children's bread and to cast it unto the dogs. Now, does that link with Romans chapter 1 and 16 and Romans chapter 2 and 9? Right? No, that doesn't link with that. All right. You want to go into it, right? Or I can go into it.
Yeah, I'll go into it real fast.
Okay,
let me bring this up. So when you read Mark, the 7th chapter, right, you got to start at verse 24 into parables, the same account as Matthew, right, the 15th chapter. But nevertheless, when you read it, I'm going to start at verse 26. Now it says, the woman was a Greek of Syrophoenician by nation, and she besought him that would cast forth the devil out of her daughter. Now, this is not a physical white woman. You know, a lot of people were classified as that word Greek, but that's not talking about the nation of Israel, right? When you go into that Syrophoenician, believe it go back to Canaanite, right? When you go into that landmass, when you go into the etymology. Well, matter of fact, let me pull that up because I got that understanding on it real fast. Let me pull this up right now. Most High willing, I got it right here. Yeah, so like, bear with me.
Yeah, and why the brother look for that? Romans 1 and 16. I'm gonna read that just so brothers, who may not have read it. It reads, "For I am not ashamed of the gospel of Hamashiach, for it is the power of the Most High unto salvation to everyone that believeth, to the Jew first, and also to the Greek." And that word Greek in the Greek is Helen, which is really an Israelite that practiced Greek customs and made it their own. So you had the circumcision, which are Israelites who grew up knowing that they were Israelites. They were circumcised to 8th day, kept the Passover, went to the synagogue. That's the Jew in that context. The Greek is an Israelite who is coming out of Greek lifestyles. So, of course, the word was sent to the Jew first. Right, let me get a quick precept, all right, while you got that real quick.
Okay, come on.
All right, one quick precept. This is Romans chapter 15 and verse 8. It reads, "Now I say that Yahushua Hamashiach was a minister of the circumcision for the truth of God to confirm the promises made unto the fathers." Now, I'm going to read that in another version, right? I'm going to pull that up just so brothers understand what that circumcision is. It says Yahushua, when he was on the scene, he was strictly a minister to who? To the circumcision. Now, it's that same verse in the NLT. "Remember that Christ came as a servant to the Jews to show that God is true to the promise he made to their ancestors." Right? Other versions say circumcision, but it shows that Christ, when he was on the scene, he was strictly sent to the Jews, right? And the Jews in that context are Israelites chiefly from Judea who knew the law, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. Then you have the uncircumcision, which are the Greeks in that context, right? But you had Israelites who were called Greeks who knew that they were Israelites too. Say that in John the 12th chapter, right? But you got it, King.
And when you go into the etymology, that word Greek, right? It says Grecian, right? Hellenist. But then when you go to Syrophoenician, it says the name of a mixed nation, half Phoenicians and half Syrians. You go into that word Phoenician, this is a member, right? Inhabiting an ancient Phaeronus colony of the Phoenicians, prospered from trade and manufacturing until the capital, Tyre, was sacked by Alexander the Great in 332 BC. And when you go into it, that word, it says the Phoenicians were a late Canaanites of the first millennium, BCE, Iron Age through Roman period. Descendants of the Canaanites in the second millennium, BCE, Middle Bronze Age through Late Bronze Age. The Phoenicians was name given to a people by the Greeks, but the Phoenicians continue to refer to themselves as Canaanites or by the names of principal cities, right? So, I mean, that's going into Bible history anthropologysociety.org.
And one quick point, that word Phoenicia, like the brother went into, was a name given to him by the Greeks because they were selling purple, right? That's where you get the word phoenix from, or Phoenicia. A phoenix is a purple bird. A Phoenicia goes back to the purple dye that they were selling, right? When you go to Ezekiel, the 27th chapter, you can see all of the exports that they were pushing out, man, and trade that they was doing. So the Greeks said, look, we don't care what y'all call yourself. Y'all are purple traders, man. Now we want to be called the Canaanites. No, you're purple, right? And you guys out there in the land of Cush, you're black. That's what they call them, Ethiopians. That means burnt face or black face, man. Right? So they just went around, and I believe it tell you that in the Josephus, just calling lands wherever they wanted to call them, man. That was convenient to the Greek language. So they can identify who these people are. And those are the traders of purple. We don't care what they call themselves. And those guys are burnt face by the Nile River. Those are Ethiopians. You know, so like the brother said, understanding that geography and that history helps too. But Mark 7, oh, go ahead.
My bad, you got it.
Yeah, real. Mark 7:27, that's more so going into the position of the heathen, right? They're going to eat of the crumbs. They're going to eat of that leaf of that tree. They're going to get the sloppy seconds, if you can understand, huh? Right? And eat our leftovers. And that meaning not actual food, right? But just in terms of, we're going to be given the tree of life, the fruit thereof, and they're going to be given the leaf of the tree, which is for the healing of the nations. So they'll understand particular laws and commandments, but they're not going to have the promises and the laws in the inward parts like us. Those are the crumbs they get, right? But you got it, King.
And two, we know that this is not talking about the Israelites. Let's go to Mark 7:27 again. So, but Yahweh said unto her, let the children first be filled, for it is not meet to take the children's bread and cast it unto the dogs. That says the children's bread. So even at our lowest state, us in sin, on drugs, doing God knows what in philosophies, doctrines, and all manner of wickedness, being beguiled, right? When Luke, the 15th chapter, about the parable of the prodigal son, he was still called a son the whole time. When you read it, it always calls the Most High the Father, and it always calls us the Son. Even in our rebellion, even in us going off, even us doing God knows what, it still refers to us as the children. So we'll always be known as the children. Now we could be a bad son, we could be going off, we could be the rebellious child, but nevertheless, we'll always be the children. We're not referred to as the dogs, man. This Luke chapter 15, right? And verse, I'm gonna start at 21. It says, I'm gonna start at 20. It says, and he arose and came to his father, but when he was yet a great way off, his father saw him and had compassion and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. And the son said unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and thy sight, and am no more worthy to be called thy son. Right? He said, look, I'm no worthy to be called thy son. But the father said unto his servants, bring forth the best robe and put it on him, and put on the ring on his hand and shoes on his feet, and bring hither the fatted calf and kill it, and let us eat and be merry. For this my son was dead and is alive. Again, he was lost and is found, and they begin to be married. So even in all of this, the father never said, you're not my son anymore. I mean, even in all this, you're still called the children. So we know that the Lord never called us dogs, man, even in our lower state.
Yeah, and the Lord never called the so-called white man and the other nations his children. So that is, they which are the children of the flesh, right? These are not the children of God, right? That's Romans chapter 9, 6 on down. You know, I want to get this one more precept real quick. This John chapter 19 and 19, right? Just to deal with that Greek. And Pilate wrote a title and put it on a cross, and the writing was Yahweh of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. This title then read many of the Jews, for the place where Yahweh was crucified was nigh to the city, and it was written in Hebrew and Greek and Latin, right? Hebrew, the language of the Jews. Greek was the most widely known language within the Roman Empire, and Latin was the official language that the Romans spake, right? Why would the cross be written in Greek? Because you had Israelites, or those words be written in Greek, because you had Israelites who spoke Greek, who knew the law to come to Jerusalem and keep the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Right? So that shows you that you had Israelites from these backgrounds that actually spoke the Greek. You know, and that's a very, 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 very common stumbling block in Christianity, seeing that word Greek and automatically associated with a so-called white man. You know, I mean, it's a similar concept to being called an American today. Just because you go to China as an American doesn't mean you're a white man is going there. That can be an East Indian, it can be a Korean, it can be a Hamite, right? Nevertheless, they're Americans, man. You know, that's why people say Paul was a white man, he was a Roman. You know, that's just a complete disservice to any form of scholarship, right? Just because he's a Roman, right? That's what that's a low level understanding. You know, you got something on that?
Nah.
Okay, only a remnant, right? Were there any age required before having a wife? Yeah, there's no well, when you go to the book of Numbers, to the first chapter, a man can go to war at 20, but in terms of a set age, there's no set account. Now, I wanted to find, I believe I was doing some studying either today, you know, I dug off on the plantation or earlier, and I was going into it. Some men say 20 historically when you go to different documents and go through the history, but in terms of the precept, there's no set age. All right. I got this precept real quick in Tobit. All right, this Tobit chapter 1. So like you bear with me. And I'm gonna get verse. Let's see. I'm gonna start at bear with me. You got it. I want to find this.
Con, and we know through the precepts, not that a specific number is being mentioned, but we know through the precepts that the Most High wants his woman to be developed. That's all in Song of Solomon. You can't have a little girl, you know, that's just hitting puberty, and you're looking at her just because she's developing in some areas, but she's not a full perfection. You know, even on a physical level, I was doing, like the brother was saying, I was doing some research one day, and there's different stages of a flower. You know, it takes a set amount of days for it to bud, for it to increase, and for it to reach its blossom and bloom. Just because it starts to blossom doesn't mean that it's all the way bloomed, right? This is the book, A Song of Solomon, chapter 8, right? And verse, I'm going to start at 8. It says, we have a little sister, and she have no breast. What shall we do for our sister in the day when she shall be spoken for? So the Most High is likening this little sister and it's somebody that's younger in the truth, right? Wet behind the ears, may not know how to break down the prophecies, may not even know what the book of Esdras is going into, man. Just kind of stumbled into this thing and read the book of Deuteronomy and had a little understanding of Proverbs. But the Most High says, look, she needs milk. She needs commandments. She needs to be built up. She needs strength. It says, and what should we do for our sister in the day when she should be spoken for? What does it mean spoken for? Meaning bidden to the marriage. Right. Being beamed up. I mean, if you're not developed on a spiritual level, right, mentally and repenting and having an understanding of our Lord, right, the Lord may not beam you up, man, because you've been wasting time all of this time, wasting out your oil. So the Lord likens an undeveloped woman to somebody stumbling wet behind the ears in His truth. So the same way we have to apply this, you know, metaphor on a physical level. You know, the Lord says in Song of Solomon 7:7, it says, thy stature is like to a palm tree, and thy breasts to clusters of grapes. And we know being mature that it takes time for everybody to fully, you know, mature. You know, a man doesn't, when he starts to grow his beard, it isn't fully terminal hairs. They're vellus, you know, what they call peach fuzz. And then it'll be rural, you know, vellus hairs, and you know, it'll be plucking down, trying to get his hair coming in. But as soon as he reaches a certain age, it starts to darken, it starts to thicken because he's maturing over time. And that happens through the spirit. You have to mature over time. You know, even in the priesthood, man, you had to wait upon the priest office a set amount of time, 25 to 30 years of age before you could go in and do it. So the Most Highs were waiting in patience and completion. You got it.
Come on. All right, let me get this precept, Salakia. I want to Tobit 1-9. right, to add to it. Furthermore, when I was come to the age of a man, I married Anna of my own kindred, and of her I beget Tobias. So there's no exact count, but he said the age of a man. Right now, for a woman, like the brother said, woman wasn't getting married. I'll put this out there at 40 years old, right? I mean, that would be a complete disgrace, man. 40 years old, even certain societies, I think this in the land of Moab or Elam and dealing with the Ishmaelites. Look, you're not getting married at 35. There's no independent Chinese woman, independent Arab woman. Where's the independent Arab woman at? Right? Because the Arab woman always has a husband, right? The Moabite woman usually always got a husband, man. Even you nasty Hamites who's sneaking in on the live, and y'all got husbands, man. But the so-called black woman, she wants to be independent, right? Independent from the Most High, Yahweh Shai, the Israelite man, and then cleave and be dependent on the so-called white man. But the point I'm making is, women got married early, right? Now you can't say, well, you got brothers in the ancient world. Is it that time yet? Right? Is it that time? They asking the fathers, is it that time? No, you can't do that, man. That would be bold and unwise. Right? Is it that time? You sitting there, oh, she sure is growing up, huh? You're out there in the field looking at the cattle. The little girl runs outside to get the sheep that's going astray. You tell her father, oh boy, you see that she growing up. This is not some nasty Jake family reunion, man. Like they show you in the Medea movie, they asked that woman, girl, why don't you go over there and give me that thing in the cooler? And it was a family reunion, man. And all of the nasty uncles and great uncles and grandfathers was just lusting, man. In the ancient world, let me get this in Sirach, the 42nd chapter, right? Women did get married early around the time they had their flower, but you couldn't sit there and say, oh, wow, here it goes. And just start freaking off with it, man. Right? This is Sirach chapter 42 and verse, I'm going to start at 9. The father waketh for the daughter when no man knoweth, and the care for her taketh away sleep. When she is young, lest she pass away the flower of her age, and being married, lest she should be hated. So once a woman passed the flower of her age, that was time for her to get married. Don't mean it was the exact day, and you just sit up there, kick the damn door down, man. Right? Clean that up. It's time. That's wicked. Right? So you would have to have discipline in the ancient world and some composure, man. You have to talk to the father. The father would he had the right to kind of hold off, man. Right? He could have said, hold on, look, I know that happened, but it's not time. Now, a lot of people, you may be watching and, I don't know about that. That's weird. You got that. Hey, guess what? This is the ancient world. You have to have an ancient mind to understand the scriptures. We're not Americans. That's weird. What did it mean, a flower for age? Well, we're Israelites, man. Certain things that you may be familiar with and in this society was not going down in the ancient world, man. Marriage was a lot different. The age of marriage was a lot different. Relationships were a lot different, right? So you had men buying women, you had a lot going on. Fathers selling daughters in Exodus, the 21st chapter, to be a wife, dowries, So, you got to get your mind and put it back in the East. Remember, we're a Shemitic people, right? And a particular culture and heritage was given to us by the Most High God, man. I just want to bring that point up. You got it, King.
That's a good point. And two, when you read 1 Timothy, the 5th chapter, it says, I would therefore that the younger woman marry, bear children, and guide the house. So, even on a physical level in the society, they got something called the ticking clock. The women, like 36 years old, they husband hunting, they leaving the clubs, they trying to clean up their house and trying to get a husband, man, because they so-called internal clock is ticking. That's why the Most High said you have to start young, but then wisdom starting young. That's not talking about, you just pop the balloons in her room and just put up something else, man, in a day when something happened. It says, I would therefore that the younger woman marry, bear children, guide the house. give none occasion to the adversary to speak reproachfully. So, I mean, that just goes to show you that women, it's a miracle damn near for a woman to have a baby over 40 years old, man, 45 years old. So we know that women weren't getting married to that degree that old, man. You know, you start young so that you could bring forth children, and do the work of the Lord as a woman. You know, take care of the children, teach the household, do everything, the little ones, raise them up, get everything in order.
Yeah, brother said that color purple spirit, Fisherman of Zion. All right. You know, that's a whole nother story, man. Now that was off. The color purple was off, man. The whole movie started off. You know, but even you know, a lot of your great grandmothers and great grandparents, your great grandmothers wasn't getting married at 35, 40. You know, they was getting married, you know, 18, 19, 20, 21, 19, 30. They wasn't getting married at no damn 50, man. I think it's time. Right? Voice getting all deep. You know, you got your pension plan coming in. And man, you wasn't sitting around getting married at damn 50, man. That wasn't how things worked in the ancient world. Sitting up there, your damn body all broken down, and Second Esdras, the 5th chapter, tells you about the womb of a woman, right? And the weaker in age and the infirmities that an older womb bears. So it was necessary that women bore children when your womb was young, vibrant, and healthy. Right? Let me get that precept real quick. Right?
I got one.
You said what?
I said I got one after you.
And let me say this too: when you're reading the Bible, you got to be mature, right? You know, you can't sit. I don't like talking about this. I just want to know about the milk and the honey, right? And talk about the wisdom's table. Well, we got to talk about everything. This is part of your culture and heritage, man. We got to talk about prophecy, history, anthropology. We're going into botany with the trees and war tactics. We're an ancient people. Take your mind and put it back in Jerusalem, right, for a moment. Second Esdras, real quick, chapter 5 and verse 52, 51. He answered me and said, ask a woman that beareth children, and she shall tell thee. Say unto her, wherefore are unto they whom thou hast now brought forth like those that were before, but less of stature. So when you get older, your children that are born get a little bit weaker compared to when you bear children when you're young. And she shall answer thee. This is what the Most High said. They that be born in the strength of youth are of one fashion, and they that are born in the time of age, where the womb faileth, are otherwise. You see that? So if you're 60 years old and you have a child, your child is going to come out, not all the time, but there's a high chance your child is going to come out a little bit jammed up. Now, the Most High can do what he wanted to. He did it to Sarah. He did it to our foremothers, right? But nevertheless, you know, you want to have children at 60, you might not make it, right? And then, you know, women that have children that are younger, you're in the ancient world, chiefly your child will grow up stronger and healthier. Now you got a child at 45. Now your child is allergic to everything, man. You're trying to figure out why he's itching, right? You got it, King.
And two, man, the Most High speak against a old whorish adulterer, man. It's the book of Sirach, chapter 25 and verse 2. 3 sorts of men my soul hated, and I am greatly offended at their life. A poor man that is proud, a rich man that is a liar, and an old adulterer that doeth, man. Just don't know when to stop. So the Lord is with marrying young, because you don't want to be an old adulterer, just making wives and leaving them and just going here, going there, leaving out the club. Everybody know that one uncle, man. He just don't grow up. He just old, and he still think he's 16 years old, man, 25 years old, man. Hey, I remember a couple years ago, my uncle cut this out, but he used to have cornrows, man. He was there. Hey, man, he was a grown man, man, right? Damn, gray hair, just cornrows, just won't leave it alone. So, I mean, you got to grow up in this thing, man. Get you a wife, a family,
Right.
and the spirit, right?
Right. It's right, man. It's right. So there's no, and this society is different. So don't you gotta know how to be wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove.
Right.
Right. You have things that you have to abide by in this society. You have laws, statutes, and commandments. Right. And you have to use wisdom. So there's a whole thing we can go into with marriage in the ancient world, and like I said, dowries and arranged marriages and the fathers and the bride price. But that would be a breakdown for another day. Okay, same brother Malaki, how would should we put our kids through Esau's school system, or are there any laws against it? I know homeschooling can be vexing nowadays. I'll say this, right? Let me get this in Isaiah 54 chapter. Right, let me get a quick precept. Right, Isaiah chapter 54. And that's becoming, in this school system, like brothers know, it's completely off. It was off when we was young, you know what I'm saying? And we're still young, but growing up, it was off. But nowadays, now they have transformer teachers. I saw one clip, they had this drag queen went to the school library and was reading a book about drag queens to the kids, man. Now I remember they had sex ed growing up, right? You got to, we had to sign the paper, you got to learn, and you got to let the so-called white man teach you about them being fruitful and multiplying. Now they're adding sodomy to it. So your kid is at school and he has to learn to be fruitful and multiply. You know what I'm talking about, but now he has to learn the sodomy aspect of it. Now he has to learn about the folly and man on man and how this goes where, and if you're a sodomite, do this, and it's madness, man. Like I said, you got drag queens, sodomites. Hey, the food is waxing worse. The generations is waxing worse. You got molestation and wickedness going on, and all types of spirits, man. All types of spirits. But let me get this precept. So if you have the wisdom, the patience, the resources, the finances, the time, and the understanding to do it at home, and by all means do so, man. We know everybody doesn't have that situations. We brothers and sisters have different situations, right? Your income, your time, and you have a lot of variables and factors that go into making that decision. But if you have the means to do so, I always recommend to do it. If you can, right? Now, if you don't do it, if you can't do it, your kid just sitting around just playing video games on the phone, man. 18 years of their life, you said you was homeschooling them, and you're more than likely going to jail because there's certain documents and forms and things you got to fill out, and people are checking on you. You got to make phone calls, and there's a lot that goes into that. But that's why you got to count the cost. But quick precept. Right, Isaiah chapter 54 and 13. And all thy children shall be taught of the Lord, and great shall be the peace of thy children. And that's going to be in the kingdom. In the kingdom, all your children are going to be taught of the Lord. That's the best way to go. Your children being taught according to how our forefathers taught our children or gave them the necessary wisdom and understanding. And this captivity is hard. And like I said, if you can do it, do it. If you can't, pray on it, and you teach your children wisdom and understanding why they go out to these schools, man. Because there's a lot of spirits out there. But you got it, King.
Just to line me back on what the brother just said, if you can't afford it, you don't want to overthrow yourself by being over righteous.
Right.
What you can control is through the spirit is you could teach them the right way when they get home. They're going to be taught, through Wicked Jake, through commercials, TV. It's nothing you can really do. This society is going to get a hold to them sooner or later. Whether it be their phone, the internet, YouTube, social media, it's going to be something that tries to grab them, that the spiritual demon Satan will use as a pawn to control their minds and manipulate them through this beast, man, this system. You can't escape this system. You may prevent certain things from happening in the system, But nevertheless, this beast is going to try to manipulate you, man.
Right.
It just boils down to the spirit that you have through the Most High to direct your children uprightly and to rightly divide the word of truth. Now, if you don't do that and you leave your kids in the hand of the beast, right, to be manipulated and controlled and overcome by, then I'll be blood upon your hands. But to essentially take them out of school isn't, like I said, if you can't afford it, if you don't want to be working, 3 hours here, 5 hours here, you're driving your kids. I mean, it's you want to be wise and then using wisdom. Right, let me bring out this quick precept. Right, you got Titus, the 2nd chapter, going into the aged woman, teaching the children. You can utilize grandparents, aunties, uncles. It's a lot of things you could utilize through the spirit to help your children to grow. And like the old ancient proverb go, Jake, man, take a village to raise a child, man. When you young, at least with me, I went over this auntie house, grandmother house, this house, that house. My mother, working the shifts that she was working or whatever the case may be. So it takes help raising children. So you got to utilize that through the spirit. But the Most High said this is the book of Isaiah 51:2. Look unto Abraham your father and unto Sarah that bare you. So the Most High wants you to look unto the scriptures. Look unto righteous examples. Looking unto people that could direct you and help you through the spirit. Then we're not looking to LeBron James and we're not looking into these celebrities of Hollywood, man, because it's going to corrupt your mind. And like the brother brought out a good point, they are teaching a lot of witchcraft in schools, man. Right, the sex education and they're putting videos on, and they're grabbing instruments and flipping them around and banging on the board and creating new things that you never even heard of, man. Right, so I mean, you got to be wise too. That goes into you overseeing what it is that your children are doing. Now, your child just can't be on the phone in the living room. You said who they talking to, they just say Jay, and then you go into the kitchen, man. So you got to have an oversight of what the hell is going on in the house.
I got a quick precept on that. Right, real quick. This the law. You went to Deuteronomy.
Allah, you got it.
All right, real quick. This Deuteronomy chapter 11 and verse 18. Therefore, should ye lay up these my words in your heart and in your soul, and bind them for a sign upon your hand, that they may be as frontlets between your eyes. And ye shall teach them your children, speaking of them when thou sittest in thine house, and when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. So you're commanded to instruct your children according to the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the Most High. So if your children are in public school or private school, the charter school, Catholic school, Christian school, whatever the case may be, you want to be able to overrule their understanding with the Most High and let them know the ins and outs. Man, they serving pepperoni pizza. Hey, look, you're not eating no pork. Hey, yeah, they got basketball on Saturday. Hey, no, look, you keeping the Sabbath. Right? The teacher wants you to put a dress on. There was this school where this Jake got isolated and, to put a dress on, man. And I think he put the dress on. And you got to tell your children, hey, look, if they try to make you wear a dress, hey, tell them no, man. I think they forced that guy to wear a dress, that kid. I could be wrong. Last time I looked into it. But now you got to tell your son, hey, look, if they try to make you wear a dress, don't wear a dress, man. Right? There are certain laws and commandments that you have to bring out, man, to your children. So they know the Lord said, train up a child in the way that he should go in Proverbs 22:6. And when he is old, he will not depart from it. So if you instill this understanding in your child, there's a lot of children in public school, man, in the truth. They wear their fringes on, they get off the bus like everybody else, but they move in a different spirit. They know about the fringes, they know certain things, and they know how to depart from evil, man. The Lord said even a child is known by his doings, right? But you got it, King.
Khan, and as well, this is the book of Acts, chapter 7, and verse number 20. It says, in which time Moses was born, it was exceedingly fair, and nourished up in his father's house 3 months. And when he was cast out, Pharaoh's daughter took him up and nourished him for her own son. And Moses was learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptians, and was mighty in words and in deeds. And when he was full 40 years old, and came into his heart to visit his brethren, the children of Israel. So no matter how much you get doctrinized by Egypt, if it is the Most High and the Spirit, he's going to jack your spirit up to seek him, man, and come back home. You know, because we were all lost, man. A lot of our parents are Americans, man. They don't know who they are. They don't understand the truth. They don't understand the morals and the laws and the statutes and commandments. But it came in all of our hearts, just like Moses to visit the affliction of our brethren and come back into this truth. So the Most High are going to draw your children, like the brother just said, if you train up your child in the way they should go.
That's right. That's right. That's a good question. Good questions. All right, Jake for Life, 45. I was watching another camp, and they said that during the time of the Romans, the Israelites didn't know that the Edomites were the wicked. They thought they were just another nation. Is this true? Well, I'm going to get this precept on that. All right. Let me get Second Thessalonians, the second chapter. Right. Let me get this real quick. Right. Second Thessalonians chapter 2. Our forefathers were well studied. Right. The law and the understanding was passed down from generation to generation. Right. Now, how they dealt with Esau, they were in a different situation than how we are. Right. Certain rights, liberties, freedoms, lifestyle was a lot different. So we deal with Esau similarly to a certain extent, but also due to the age we're living in, we have a lot more liberty to prophesy and speak to Esau in a bolder manner, right? Due to this clay type of nature he runs his kingdom in, or the Israelites could just tell Esau what they want to tell him, huh? Right to his face, and he got to deal with it. You really couldn't do that in ancient Rome. You couldn't just roll up and say anything about Caesar or the governor or things like that. You were put to death. So certain liberties and certain lifestyles are a lot different in these two different empires. But I want to get Second Thessalonians real quick precept. You got it. Second Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse. I'm gonna get straight to the point. Let's see. All right, Second Thessalonians chapter 2 and 3. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. Right? So the apostle Paul, he knew that the Edomites was the son of perdition. And it tells you that. It reads, verse 7, for the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way. So the apostle Paul said the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Meaning during the time of the so-called white man and Paul, Nero was in power at the time, right? You had Nero. Before that, you had you had Claudius. You had all of these different Caesars that ruled. The apostle Paul is calling that Roman Empire the mystery of iniquity, the man of sin, the so-called white man. Paul knew that the so-called white man was the devil. Did he go out publicly and say that? No, he had a different lot than we have now. He had a different ministry, right? The apostle John, but our forefathers knew the so-called white man was the damn devil, huh? Why do you think John the Baptist was so bold against Herod and said, hey, it is not lawful for you to have your brother's wife, man? He got on Esau, man. Yahushua called him a fox. That's all throughout the scriptures, the so-called white man being called a fox. So our forefathers knew the so-called white man was the wicked, man. All right, but you got it, King.
And two, when you go to Second Esdras 11 and 40, Ezra already told you that this was the most wickedest kingdom, huh? He told you these things way before, you understand, these men walked the earth during this time. This Second Esdras 11 and 40. And the fourth came, which is the Roman Empire, and overcame all the beasts that were past, and had power over the world with fear, so like with great fear, and over the whole compass of the earth, which much wicked oppression. So Ezra said that these men, when they conquered the earth, they overcame them with much wicked oppression. So even from the time of Ezra to the time of the Roman Empire, to fulfill the wickedness, men already knew ages ago that they were the wicked, man. So this isn't a new thing coming upon the earth. Job prophesied about the so-called white man and his wickedness, all in the book of Job. You understand? David prophesied about the wicked, right?
Yeah.
Esdras prophesying about the wicked. But to get more specific, Esdras prophesying about the Roman Empire specifically. So it specifically says that these men are wicked, with much wicked oppression, and so long time dwelt he upon the earth with deceit. For the earth hast thou not judged with truth, but thou hast afflicted the meek, thou hast hurt the peaceable. So if the Roman Empire is afflicting the meek, who is the meek? The Israelites. So we must know that they're wicked if they're afflicting us during this time. Thou hast loved liars and destroyed the dwellings of them that brought forth fruit, and cast down the walls of such as did need no harm. Huh? And that's exactly what he did in the siege in 70 AD. He cast down our walls. He killed our children. Therefore is thy wrongful dealing come up into the highest, and thy pride into the mighty. You got it.
Kind and you know, the Lord said, it's like knowledge shall be increased in the book of Daniel, 12th chapter. Right. So a lot of prophecies, we have a higher level of understanding, but that this doesn't disannul the fact that our forefathers knew particular things. Right. Now, Acts 24:14, it says, but this I confess unto thee, that after the way which they call heresy, so worship I the God of my fathers, believing all things which were written in the law and in the prophets. So Isaiah 14:1, Jeremiah 30:16, right? These things, Paul believed them, right? He knew they knew. Nehemiah knew that the heathen was our enemies, right? In Nehemiah 5:9, he said, it is not good that ye do, all ye also to walk in the fear of the Lord, because of the reproach of the heathen, our enemies. Right now, that word in Hebrew is Gayawam, which means the nations. We always knew that these nations were our enemies. Right? We always knew that the so-called white man was our enemy, man. That's like Ariah said, that was nothing new. It's in our spirit to know that. You don't even have to understand that Esau is Esau, because in your spirit, you're going to naturally oppose, for the most part, you're going to naturally oppose the so-called white man. You're going to struggle from the womb. So even in the spirit, we knew. Rather, we knew, okay, well, this scripture talking about Esau right here, and that's a dark sin. Rather, that level of understanding was at a high level. That doesn't disannul the fact that the spirit reveals who your enemy is. Anyway, man. Now, there's another precept I wanted to get. I just had it in Acts the 15th chapter. Let me get this real quick. Okay, this is Acts chapter 15 and verse 15. Notice, Acts 15 and 16. Right, this is what James said. Now he's about to quote Amos the 9th chapter, but he knows Amos the 9th chapter that speaks about possessing the remnant of Edom. He understood that, but applied it to the fact that you had Israelites who took on the customs of these other nations. Now, before I read Acts 15, let me read that in Amos 9 real quick. Quick precept. Right, this Amos chapter 9 and verse 12. That they may possess the remnant of Edom and of all the heathen which are called by my name, said the Lord that doeth this. So they knew that we would put these nations in slavery. James knew that, but James used skill. Skill is a particular trait that our forefathers had, right? So he used skill and applied that verse to Israelites who lived like the heathen, right? So, but he knew historically, like Paul, Yahushua, our forefathers, they knew that the so-called white man would be our future slave. Otherwise, he wouldn't have used so much skill in Acts the 15th chapter to apply it to heathen, right? Because he was, he knew the law. Acts 15 and 16. After this, I will return and will build again the tabernacle of David, which is fallen down, and I will build again the ruins thereof, and I will set it up, that the residue of men might seek after the Lord, and all the Gentiles upon whom my name is called, said the Lord that doeth all these things. So Paul, it's like James used Amos the 9th chapter and skill when he knew he was talking about the heathen as our enemies, but applied it to Israel living in this Gentile state of mind. But you got it, King.
And they must have had known the so-called white man was evil and wicked because he didn't cast forth righteous judgment during the Roman Empire. It's the book of Acts, chapter 18 and verse 12. It says, and when Galileo was the deputy of Antioch, the Jews made insurrection with one accord against Paul. Right? So he's a Roman officer and brought him to the judgment seat, saying this fellow persuaded men to worship God contrary to the law. Right? So they're trying to deliver up, right, before this officer. And when Paul was now about to open his mouth, Galileo said unto the Jews, if it were a matter of wrong or wicked lewdness, O ye Jews, reason would that I should bear with you. But if it be a question of words or names and of your law, look ye to it. For I will be no judge of such matters. Man, he said, I don't give a damn about the law, man. He said, that's y'all thing. Get out of my face. And now if you coming to me about our customs, about what we do, then I'll judge the matter. But if it got to do with the law or the Most High, I don't want nothing to do with it. Now, how do you not know that's the wicked, man? Let me read that again. Verse 12 says, and when Galileo was the deputy of Antioch, the Jews made insurrection with one accord. Now, anything about Jake is going to be loud. They was kicking and screaming, and it says against Paul, and brought him to the judgment seat, forcing him, saying this fellow persuaded men to worship God contrary to the law. But I thought the law was holy. I thought the law was righteous. So if the Jews don't know that the so-called white man is the wicked by this, I don't know what else you would go to. It says, and when Paul was now about to open his mouth, Galileo said unto the Jews, if it were a matter of wrong or wickedness, so like a wicked lewdness, O ye Jews, reason that I should bear with you. But if it be a question of words or names and of your law, look ye to it, for I will be no judge of such matters. So he can't judge the law, nor does he have anything pertaining to righteousness, because it's not in his spirit to have that understanding. It says, and he drave them out from the judgment seat. Then all the Greeks took Pseudonus, the chief ruler of the synagogue, and beat him before the judgment seat. And Galileo cared for none of those things. So an innocent man is getting beaten right before you, and you don't care about none of those things. Neither do you care about the law. So this is how we know that the Jews knew they was wicked. Maybe not all of them, because the chief priests and certain men, they yielded their strength unto them, like cowards and coons. But a lot of them observing and witnessing these accounts, the righteous knew these things.
Yeah, and Yahweh Shah taught them, called them the abomination of desolation, right? And a lot of those people took heed to that. They understood what he was speaking about, right? In 70 AD. Another quick precept, 1 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 2 and 1. Dare any of you having a matter against another go to law before the unjust and not before the saints? So again, the apostle Paul and the whole church of Corinth was on one accord, knowing that they looked at the unjust, it's the Romans, the just are the saints, right? Why we call the so-called white man unjust? The apostle Paul did. The apostle Paul called the so-called white man the wicked. I mean, that's another word of saying unjust, ungodly. He called him ungodly, straight up and down. And the church of Corinth, they knew what he was talking about. Otherwise, he wouldn't say that. So that was a conversation they had, man, out in Corinth and Greece. And this guy, hey, they're the unjust. Maybe that was a common conversation, man. So that's not a big secret that the so-called white man was the wicked at that time. Like Ryan said, I mean, you had Herodians, you had coons, people that cleaved to Esau. You know what I'm saying? And that's all the time with Israel, man. Right? They won't acknowledge that he's the wicked, but certain Israelites will. Okay. Next question. Again, this question from 3 hours ago, right? The Wad Yashad. Like I said, we trying to get all these questions out. I think we're moving a little bit faster, right? If I do say so myself, humbly speaking. Okay, can you break down Deuteronomy chapter 22, 23 through 29? How do we explain the words humbled her in verse 29 to the unlearned? Shalom wa barakatham. Yeah, I believe that word humbled is ainah in the Hebrew, which means punish, force, kind of, lay hold on, that's what that's going into. But this is I want to get that word in the Hebrew. Well, let me read this verse. All right, let me read that real quick, Salakia. Deuteronomy 22 and 23, right? If a man be found lying with a woman married to a husband, then they both of them shall die, both the man that lay with the woman and the woman, so shalt thou put away evil from Israel. That's just straight up adultery, right? Consensual adultery. Verse 23. If a damsel that is a virgin be betrothed unto a husband, and a man find her in a city and lie with her, then ye shall bring them both out into the gate of that city, and ye shall stone them with stones that they die. The damsel, because she cried not, meaning she was with it. If she was being raped, she wouldn't cry. I mean, it's like if she was being raped, she would cry, but she didn't cry because she was with it, right? Being in the city, and the man, because he humbled his neighbor's wife, so shalt thou put away evil from among you. That's another case of adultery. This case of adultery is dealing with a virgin or a woman. It's like that's betrothed to a husband, right? A virgin betrothed to a husband. They haven't consummated the marriage, but even when you're betrothed and you lay down with a woman that's promised to another man, that's still adultery. You were getting it right? Or I could keep going.
Con, I get in there.
Right.
And then two, like the brother was saying, you could be betrothed to somebody, and it could be adultery, because they would have the dowry in the ancient world. Like you read 1 Samuel, the 18th chapter, with David and with Saul, right? It's the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 18, and we get straight to the point. In verse number 25, it says, and Saul said, thus shall ye say to David, the king, desireth not any dowry, but 100 foreskins of the Philistines to be avenged of the king's enemies. But Saul thought to make David fall by the hand of the Philistines. So in the ancient world, like we're going into, you would have the dowry, and that would belong unto David, man. And somebody else can't just grab her up and do what he wants to do after he paid that dowry. That's essentially like this word we call being engaged. That you will have broken the vow that you're trying to go into, with your husband. The same way, right? Going back to it, Deuteronomy chapter 22, and verse 22, if a man be found lying with a woman married to an husband, then they both of them, both of them die, both the man that lay with the woman and the woman, so shalt thou put away evil from Israel. If a damsel that is a virgin be betrothed to an husband, and a man find her in the city and lie with her, then ye shall bring them both out of the gate of that city, and ye shall stone them with stones that they die, the damsel, because she cried not, being in the city, and the man, because he have humbled his neighbor's wife. Now, when you go to the book of 2 Samuel, right? Let me get this quick precept. Chapter 13, right? It showed you that, Tamar tried to stop her brother, David's children, meaning she cried out. It wasn't sensual and getting down to it. It's the book of 2 Samuel, chapter 13, and verse number 12. I'm going to start at 11. It says, and when she had brought them unto him to eat, he took hold of her, the same thing, and said unto her, come lie with me, my sister. And she answered him, nay, my brother, do not force me, for no such thing ought to be done in Israel. Do not thou this folly. And get your hand off me, man. Don't go to hell off and commit wickedness. It says, and I whither shall I cause my shame to go? And if thou, as for thee, thou shalt be as one of the fools in Israel. Now, therefore, I pray thee, speak unto the king, but he would not withhold me from thee. Howbeit, he would not hearken unto her voice, but being stronger than she, forced her and lied with her, man. So Tamar, she tried to get out of that situation, but you got some women, they don't get out of that situation, man. right? They just give up, or they don't cry out, or they're with it, for lack of better terms. So I mean, essentially, that's adultery, man. And you would have cast down your vows of that dowry and what you're doing, and you would have denied the faith and been put to death. You got it.
Come on. Right? So, that's it. The Most High said the damsel gets stoned and the man gets stoned in Deuteronomy 22 and 24. Right? Verse 20. And that's, that happens in particular situations, right? We know this is a touchy subject, but a woman may claim that she got raped, and you had neighbors saying, it doesn't sound like that. It's not what I heard through the walls, right? Because when the husband go home, now all of a sudden, he forced me, he pinned me up, and he did. Then the neighbors come out and say, hold on, it ain't sound like that, man. Right? And it sounded like you was crying out. Sound like you was, amongst other things. So that crying out, that was a clear indicator, man. Now, like I said, there's a whole lot of scenarios that can happen with that, but this is just, the basis. Deuteronomy 22 and 25. But if a man find a betrothed damsel in the field, and the man force her and lie with her, then the man only that lay with her shall die. So that woman is married, essentially, because she's betrothed. If you force yourself on that married woman, it's still adultery, right? It's rape, right? You can't just go out and just look at that married woman over there. You just grab her up, man. No, I'm married, right? I'm promised to this man. Like what they call a fiance now. You got people, you ain't married. All right, let me see the wedding ring. Well, I just have my engagement ring. All right, well, come here. And then you just grab her up, man. That's wicked and evil. That's doing that in the ancient world, man. Right? An engagement ring, there ain't no marriage ring. Right? She's still free game. That's still rape, right? And you get put to death for that, man. Verse 26. But unto the damsel thou shalt do nothing. There is in the damsel no sin worthy of death. For as when a man riseth against his neighbor and slayeth him, even so is his matter. So that's like murder, right? You don't kill the victim that's being assaulted and murdered, man. Verse 27. For he found her in the field, and the betrothed damsel cried, and there was none to save her. But if a man find a damsel that is a virgin, which is not betrothed, and lay hold on her and lie with her, and they be found, then the man that when you lay hold on somebody, like in the law says, if you have a stubborn and rebellious son, the parents got to lay hold on him, and they got to stone him. Or in First Kings, I believe that's Jeroboam in First Kings, the 13th chapter, if I'm not mistaken, who said, lay hold on the prophet. He stretched out his hand and it withered. He said, lay hold on him, meaning kind of you put your hands on him, right? So if you put the hands on a woman, right, and you just, and she's unbetrothed, right, and lay hold on her and lie with her, and they be found, right, and it happened, y'all got discovered. Then the man that lay with her shall give unto the damsel's father 50 shekels of silver, and she shall be his wife, because he hath humbled her. He may not put her away all his days. And like the question says, humble her, meaning this was not something that she wanted, right? He laid hold on her, man, right? But now they're both in this. Now this is a sticky situation, right? Because now the man, he shouldn't have went about it like this, man. He's supposed to talk to the father, do stuff in wisdom, right, and set this thing up, man. But now you're just acting on lust, man, and you did an uncontrollable evil act, just laying hold on the woman, right? And now you gotta I don't want to use those words, but now you have to pay the father, and you can't put her away. That's that man's punishment. He can't put her away now. Even the apostles, now when the apostles found out that you can only put away a woman for fornication, they was like, look, I don't even want to marry. It is not good that we should marry. Let me get Yaradan in here, Salaki. Shalom, King.
Shalom.
Yeah, even the apostles said it's not good that we should marry. So if you couldn't put away a woman in the ancient world, it was a big deal. It was a big deal. So now you got to deal with it. This is a horrible situation for the woman, and a bad situation for the man. That is not how you go about marriage. The brothers got it. Yes,
Broke that down.
yeah, that's a like I said, I don't want to use this example, but if I help Israel understand, essentially you break it, you buy it kind of deal, right? Because a woman, you got to pay for it. Now you got to pay in advance and have a dowry and things of that nature. But now you just kick the damn door down, break into the car. That's what I believe Hamor in Genesis 34 did, man. He just raped Dinah, and then he wanted to try to go back and say, well, look, can I buy her? Right? Can I give you a dowry? That's backwards, man. That's not how it goes. You can't just grab up this woman and then try to pay. All right? That was a wicked act that man did, man.
I read that yesterday. That was bad.
Yeah, that's like me going to a car salesman, jumping the fence, breaking into the car. You got these Kia, they call them Kia boys now, man. Right? They stealing Kias. And they driving them and they break into the damn car. They depreciate the value of the car. They drive it off the lot. They come back next week and say, I want to drive the car. Hold on, you broke into the car. Now you got to pay it. No, you can't turn it in. You can't trade it for another. That's your car. You got to deal with it. Now he can put his head down and say, look, that's your car. You can't get another car. That's your car for life. Right? So, brothers got it. Brothers got anything on that? Okay, kind of. All right, next question. From Kazak Yaban Lawyer, is Isaiah chapter 56, 5-9 talking about the nation?
It's Israel, first and foremost. I'll bring it up. It's Isaiah 56. That's what I'm thinking of. Con 56 and 5. I'll start at
Con.
It's light. Yeah, let me get some light. 56 and 5. I'll start at verse 4. I'll start at verse 3. Neither let the son of the stranger that hath joined himself to the Lord speak, saying, the Lord hath utterly separated me from his people. Neither let the eunuch say, behold, I am a dry tree. Right, I want to first break down that word eunuch. Now, you can be a eunuch for a couple of reasons. Right, and it's listed in Matthew the 19th chapter. You could be a eunuch made by man, somebody castrates you. Or perhaps you may be a eunuch, and it's like that's somebody that's waiting for the kingdom to have a household, right? It's like, yeah, let's see, get out of here. You can a eunuch is somebody that's waiting for the kingdom to have a marriage, right? Or you can be a eunuch. Yeah, I pretty much explained it too. But let me keep reading. Verse 4. For thus saith the Lord unto the eunuch that keep my Sabbaths, and choose the things that please me, and take hold of my covenant, even unto me, them will I give in mine house and within my walls a place and a name better than of the sons of daughters. I will give them an everlasting name that shall not be cut off. Right, you had a lot, and these people will also be considered outcasts in a way as well. The eunuchs, the strangers, people's kind of far off on a spiritual level. Verse 6, also the sons of the stranger that joined themselves to the Lord to serve him, to love him. It's like to love the name of the Lord, to be his servants, everyone that keepeth the Sabbath from polluting it, and taketh hold of his covenant. Even them will I bring to my holy mountain, and make them joyful in my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and their sacrifices shall be accepted upon mine altar. For mine house shall be called the house of prayer for all people. Right? And in verse 8, the Lord God, which gathered the outcasts of Israel, saith, yet will I gather others to him, beside those that are gathered unto him. Right? Now, even on another level, those nations, they're also going to serve the Lord as well. You just can't think you're going to have this, the heathenist slavery, putting big rocks in the little rocks 24/7 every week. I mean, they have to serve the Lord. The nations have to get healed as well. That's Revelation 22. This is Revelation chapter 22, verse, I want to jump down to verse 2. In the midst of the street of it, and on either side of the river, was there the tree of life, which bare 12 manner of fruit, and yielded her fruit every month, and the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. Because these nations have been polluted by Esau as well. So now when the kingdom comes, they have to be healed, and their mindset has to be rejuvenated. I have another one. This is Micah chapter 3. It's like in Micah chapter 4, verse 1. But in the last days it shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of the Lord shall be established in the top of the mountains, and it shall be exalted above the hills, right? And the people shall flow into it, right? Everybody's going to flow into it. And many nations shall come and say, come and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord and to the house of God of Jacob, and he will teach us his ways, and we will walk in his ways. For the law shall go forth of Zion, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. Right? In verse 3, and he shall judge among many people and rebuke strong nations, because that's what we'll do. Right? Lord willing, we make it to the kingdom. We're going to rebuke nations that go off. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. Brothers, had anything else to add?
Yeah, I got some. Did
Con,
you go?
go
Con, did you go to Deuteronomy? Can you hear me? Can brothers hear me?
Gone.
Con, did you go to Deuteronomy 23?
Well,
Okay, Con, let me get this quick precept. So like the brother was going into, right, you can make yourself a stranger. Whether you're banished, you understand? Whether you're unclean, you could get put without the camp. Whether you're poor, or whether you have one of your male members cut off, whatever case may be. Like you read about in Deuteronomy 23rd chapter, there are many ways you can make yourself a stranger. Right? That's not talking about the so-called white man. Everybody wants to sneak with these certain precepts and try to draft in the rest of these nations. It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 23, and verse number 1. He that is wounded in the stones, or have his private member cut off, shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord. Right? So he will be without. Right? It's many ways you could be without. So there's many ways you could be unclean. You know, the brother's going into it. Let me get another one. Right? Did you go to Ezra, the 7th chapter? Well, let me pull it. All right, let me get this quick precept. It's the book at Ezra, chapter 7, and I'm going to start at 25. So I can build. It says, I'm going to start at 27, get straight to the point. Right? I'm going to start at 26. And whosoever would not do the law of thy God and the law of the king, let judgment be executed speedily upon him, whether it be unto death or to banishment or to confiscation of goods or to imprisonment. So you would be banished in this thing, which can make you a stranger. There are many ways you could become a stranger. So that's talking about Israel and the dispersed abroad. Brothers got it.
Con.
you're breaking up a little. Can brothers hear me?
Okay, Con.
Okay.
Yeah, I was saying Isaiah chapter 56, like the brothers going into 5 through 9 is, parallel to Galatians chapter 3 and 28. Because Galatians 3 and 28 speaks of different classes of Israelites man, woman, bond, free, Jew, Greek, but they're all one in Yahweh Shai. Isaiah 56 is in the exact same spirit. Israelites from different classes of society, eunuchs, men that may have been wounded in the stones, strangers. It's the exact same thing. Right, just to help brothers get more understanding on that. Okay, next question. We're going to get a few more. Right, so lucky they had me. I'm gonna have to go all the way back. Right, they had me start all the way from the very present time where we at now, and we were still doing questions from 5 o'clock. Right. So Salakia, let me see if I can pull these questions up. And again, they beautiful questions from brothers and sisters today. Right, good questions, a lot of different topics. So and we don't want to skip a question. Now, if it's not allowing me to go all the way back to the top, Salakia, but so be it. We'll just have to deal with what we have. Right? We have to deal with what we can deal with. Okay, so Salakia, bear with us 1 second. Right? Bear with us. We'll pull this question up. Okay, let's see. This is a scoffer. Okay. Bear with us. Got to go all the way back to where we were. But brothers got it. I guess brothers got it in the meanwhile.
And I want to touch on another precept through the Spirit. When you go to Ruth, the first chapter, it's the book of Ruth, chapter 1. And I'm going to start 19. It says, so they too went until they came into Bethlehem, and it came to pass, when they would come to Bethlehem, that all the city was moved about them and said, is this Naomi? Why are they saying that? Because she's been gone in the land of Moab so long, man. It's like she's a stranger. Like your grandma, you ain't come see your grandma in damn 4 years, man. Is that you? Right? She put her glasses on, she slid into the door, right? I mean, that's the same spirit, man. So even being gone on a long journey can make you a stranger. There are many things that make you a stranger. It says, and she said unto them, call me not Naomi, call me Mara, for the Almighty hath dealt very bitterly with me. I went out full of the Lord and have brought me home again empty. So she said, I brought me home again because she was out of the land. Right? I just wanted to bring that out.
Yeah, and I saw a question, the most recent question. Somebody asked, when are you allowed to put away your wife? I'm still scrolling from the top. When are you allowed to put away your wife? Well, brother, when she commits fornication, right? When she commits fornication, that's, well, God forbid, I'm not going to say when she commits fornication, but if your woman were to commit fornication, that would be the only reason. Okay, I kind of made it back to the top to put her away. Right, you got brothers saying you could put her away if she burnt the toast. Right, you could put away your woman if she spilled your coffee. Right, you had a wrinkle in your shirt. Let me get that quick precept on that. Then I finally made it back up to the top of these questions. Right, so this is classic, right? St. Matthew, the 5th chapter, Matthew chapter 5 and verse 32. Or 32. But I say unto you that whosoever shall put away his wife, saving for the cause of fornication, causeth her to commit adultery, and whosoever marry her, that is divorce, committeth adultery. So that's plain, right? That's plain. You can only marry a woman that dealt with another. You can only put away a woman if she dealt with another man. She may have dealt with a woman. She dealt with a beast. She dealt with some type of sexual immoral act that violates Leviticus the 18th chapter, right? Put away a woman for that. Okay, from Dawad Yashai, break down Genesis chapter 2 and 24. How is it that a man shall stick to his wife upon leaving his father and mother, and the two will become one flesh? If we also teach that a man can have more than one, right? So I got a precept for that real quick. Brothers don't mind. Right? Let me get Matthew the 25th chapter real quick. Right? This is Matthew chapter 25 and verse 1. Then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto 10 virgins, which took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom. Because you have to remember, a man is the head, right? And a woman is going to be one flesh with that man, regardless. Like we're many members in Yahweh Shai, right? There is only one Yahweh Shai, but you have all of these Israelites who are essentially likened unto that make a whole, that are likened to a bride, or likened unto a chaste virgin to be presented to Yahweh Shai. So even though a woman is with a man and they become one flesh, that doesn't mean that a man can't have more than one wife, because all of these women that this man may marry, rather he marries 2 women, or rather he marries 3 women, or 4 women, or 5 women, they're still become one with that man, right? And that's essentially like I'll put it like this: a man has a seed, right? You're a husbandman. You can put your seed in more than one soil, but it's the same seed, right? No matter what. The germination of the seed and the fertilizer, and that doesn't matter. It's the seed that's in all of the different soils, right? So you know that really doesn't mean too much with a man having one flesh with a wife. Brothers got it.
Let me bring this out. 1 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse number 16. I'm gonna start at 15. It says, "Know ye not that your bodies are the members of Yahushua?" So the quote that the brother was bringing out earlier, we have many bodies. Now, I may be the toe, another brother may be the leg, another brother may be the arm, whatever the case may be. We're all joined together in the ministry of the church that fulfill an office and duty. And the Lord says, you know, he has many wives, man, when you read the book of Matthew, 25th chapter. A parable, man. The Lord said, draw me and we will run after thee. The virgins love thee, man, in the book of Song of Solomon. And we know that the virgins are the elect. Let me get this quick precept. So, I mean, the Lord is not likened, or the kingdom of heaven or his people are not likened unto all things, man. Right? Let me get this quick precept of Song of Solomon. It's the book of Song of Solomon, chapter 1 and verse number 3. It says, because of the savor of thy good ointments, thy name is as an ointment poured forth. Therefore do the virgins love thee. Draw me, we will run after thee. The king have brought me into his chambers. Now, we know what's going down in the chambers, right? It says, we will be glad and rejoice in thee. We will remember thy love more than wine. The upright love thee, God. So it says, draw me, we will run after thee. So the Lord draws us through the Spirit. He wakes us up. He has us to repent. He has us to have a zeal to be on fire. And we will run after the King, which is Yahushua, to be brought into the chambers, which are manyfold. But nevertheless, you have marriage chambers where you get married in. Now, when you go to the book of Song of Solomon, the first chapter, I'm going to start at verse 13. It says, a bundle of mirth is my well-beloved. Unto me, he shall lie all night betwixt my breasts. So, I mean, the Lord is telling you over and over when you read the Song of Solomon that it's about the elect getting bidden unto the marriage and marrying him. That's essentially what this book is about through the Spirit. You understand? So you have, like I said, you have many wives when you go to the first chapter. Also, you could be married on the left-hand side with many doctrines, man. And the Lord said in the book of Song of Solomon 6 and 9, my dove, my undefiled is but one. She is the only one of her mother. She is the choice one of her that bare her. The daughters saw her and blessed her, yeah, the queens and the concubines, and they praised her. And that's talking about the other nations. So you can be taken down by philosophies of Moab, philosophies of Elam, philosophies of the great whore America. There are many whores that trap you and that lead you silly away captive. So, I mean, you could be defiled multiple ways. It's not just by a great whore. You know, it's a Jake somewhere lost in Taiwan getting defiled. So you have many whores that you could join yourself with, just on another level, with that being, a just balance. Brothers got it.
God. Oh, you
And
got it.
one quick point. Yeah, a man can, and that's any relationship or any type of bond. You can, it's possible, and you see it all throughout the scriptures, to have a bond with more than one individual, right? You can have one bond or one relationship with one person and a bond with another person and a bond with another person. Just because you're one flesh with one person and y'all have a bond or y'all are enjoined one to another doesn't mean that it can't be done with another person, right? Because it's about the man being in bond with these various women, not the woman being in bond with one another. Even David's heart was knit with Jonathan, right? And he loved him as his own soul. Is that the only bond or knit that David's heart was knit to? No, David had other men. You understand that he loved as a brother. He had women. Just because your heart is knit to an individual doesn't mean it's only knit to one person. And when you're knit to something, you're attached. You understand? Even Jacob's life was bound up in the heart of Benjamin. You read that in the scriptures, man. Does that mean Jacob's heart wasn't bound up? He didn't love his other sons? No, man. You can love more than one individual or have this bond with more than one individual. But brothers got it.
Khan is real. The brother brought out Matthew 25th chapter, and that's a parable. For those who don't know, a parable is an allegory. It's a story used to illustrate, a certain purpose. And I say that to say Yahushua, he's that man in Matthew the 25th chapter, and he's not going to liken himself into anything that's wicked or on the left hand side. Similarly to a second Esdras, he's liking himself into a chick or to a hen, right? Gathering the chicks. Now, a lot of people say, well, you can't eat chicken, so Yahushua is going to compare himself to an unclean animal. So Yahushua is not going to compare himself to an off man. In their eyes, if that's what you think is wicked, to have multiple wives, he's not going to compare himself like that. But in reality, it's comely to have multiple wives. But is it always expedient? The point is this, it's the Lord said there's no sin in it. And I want to bring this out as well. John 14:10. Believest thou not that I am in the Father, and the Father in me? The words that I speak unto you, I speak not of myself, but the Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. So at the end of the day, is all thus saith the Lord.
Yeah, and a lot of these comments, I just want to put this out there. I just took a glance at it. It's up to the man at the end of the day to determine, how he wants to run his household. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to give a lot of strength into this conversation, but I'll just leave it at that. It's up to the man to determine how he wants to run his household in wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Right? So we can roll on. Okay, from Louis Fanbro. Let's see. Louis Fam, Shalom family. Are you sinning if you're teaching or prophesying with your head covered? Well, yeah, you're going off. Right? If you straight outright going off. That's 1 Corinthians 11th chapter. Now, not Kwame Yaradan, are we violating 1 Corinthians 11? Well, no, right? The crown of our head isn't covered, right? Now, I get the precept just so brothers understand where that question is coming from, right? 1 Corinthians chapter 11, right? 1 Corinthians chapter 11. Yeah, that multiple wives get a sticky. That stirs up spirits. Just to go back, that stirs up spirits, man. It literally raises hell from the abyss. Not that there's an actual hell, right? But that stirs up spirits, man. Just the sound of it makes certain people itch. Frown their face up, they get jittery. Certain men, they get real angry. Right? That's a heavy subject, man. America has done us bad.
I say that all the time. I say Esau put a chokehold on you.
It has done us so bad, man. We're so destroyed as a people, we're so ill. We're sick. The whole head is sick, man. Right? But let me get this man, so lucky. Let me get this precept in 1 Corinthians, the 11th chapter. Right? 1 Corinthians chapter 11, quick precept. Just so brothers understand. Verse 5. Every man praying or prophesying, having his head covered, dishonoreth his head. Right. So your head as a man would be Yahushai, and above that would be the Most High. Right. So, you know, a woman has to pray or prophesy with her head covered. Otherwise, she would dishonor her husband if she has one, not man, Yahushai, and the Most High. All right, brothers want to get in that.
I get one precept.
You got it. Go ahead.
It's 1 Corinthians. And, you know, we just did a Sabbath service a few weeks ago going back into how Paul wasn't a nigga. He wasn't just some low scum guy just walking the earth, crawling and just winging it. He saw Yahushai multiple times. He was dealing with him, or the Lord was dealing with him. You know, he said, although let me bring this out. Oh, man. It's 1 Corinthians chapter 13. This is somebody you're telling us wrong. This is 1 Corinthians 13:1. Though I speak with the tongues of men, of angels, like of men and of angels, and have not charity, I am become as let me start up a little bit more. Is that what I wanted? Oh yeah, it is. And though I have the gift, verse 2, and though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I could remove mountains and have not charity, I am nothing. But the point is this, he said, I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge. So when he said what he said, you know, through the Spirit of the Lord, that, you know, women have to have their head covered, I mean, you got to be very prideful to say that he's wrong. Brother, you don't remember what happened yesterday. You know, you fell short 5 times today, and you got the nerve to say, oh, Paul's wrong. Yeah, I know he knows all mysteries, and yeah, I know he know all, you know, he got all the gifts and prophecies and all knowledge, but he's still wrong. I mean, you know, that shit's off. And I got one more. 1 Corinthians 11:1. Be ye followers of me, even as I am. It's like even as I also am of Hamashiach. You know? So if you believe, yeah, I'll end it on that. You know? So it's that's plain.
And 2, you know, the precepts, they're going to speak for themselves. You know, there's no precept that say you got to look at just half of the Bible and apply it. You know, all of these are the words of Yahushua. And these words essentially are a spirit and they are life. So we can't pick and choose what we want to apply pertaining to the scriptures, man. We can't look at the Lord in totality, which is this word, and say, I don't like your arm, but I like the Lord's knees. I like the Lord's feet. And I like the Lord's head and his beard and his hair, but I don't desire to look at his neck. That would be off, man. That's wicked. You know, when you look at Yahushua, which is this word, you know, even Paul said in the same chapter the brother was just in, man, we see through a glass darkly. Meaning that's this word, this prophecy, this understanding. But in that day, we're going to be known even as we are known, paraphrasing. So we can't look at anything through the prophets and go against what is written, because essentially we're going against the words of God. And that's a real thin line. It's the book of Romans chapter 15 and verse 18. But I would not dare to speak of any of those things which Yahushua have not wrought by me, to make the Gentiles obedient by word and deed. So Paul says, I'm not coming out to give commandments out of my own lust, man, and just my own belly to do what I want to do. The Lord said in the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 10, let me get that real fast. And I believe verse 8. Let me get this quick precept. 2 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 8. For though I should boast somewhat more of our authority, which the Lord hath given us for edification. and not for your destruction. I should not be ashamed. So the Lord said that through the hand of Paul. Paul has authority. And what do you do with authority? You make decrees, you make customs, you make laws, you make commandments, man. So, I mean, you can't say that something that Paul said is off, man. You know, when you go to the book, let me get this last precept. The Lord said he gave commandments in 2nd Esdras, the 2nd chapter, by Moses and by his servants, the prophets. So you have Jeremiah that gave laws. You have Paul that gave laws. Hey, man, you got Ezra that gave laws. Man, you got every book that you read, you have to apply it because it's the laws. You have statutes and commandments. When you read the book of Deuteronomy, why do we get cursed, man? It wasn't just specifically for one reason. The Lord said, let me get this quick precept in Deuteronomy. Right? The Lord said it was a plethora of reasons. You know, that's the most read precept in the world, man. It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day. You can't just focus on the commandments and not the statutes. You have statutes, commandments, laws, decrees. I mean, this whole book, you have to essentially keep. It says that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. So you can't be too zeroed in on the first 5 books and negate the statutes that come along in Proverbs, Sirach, Psalms, and various other books, man. This is the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 2, verse number 1. It says, thus saith the Lord, I brought this people out of bondage and gave them my commandments by my servants, the prophets. And prophets has an S on it. So it wasn't just Moses. It wasn't just one prophet that gave the word and the commandments, whom they would not hear, but despise my counsel. Brothers, God.
Yeah, I got one precept. This Nehemiah 10:32. This what Nehemiah said. Also, we made ordinances. Right? It says we made ordinances. That's Nehemiah, Ezra, the princes, the top men. They said, hey, look, we're making ordinances. Same thing the Apostle Paul said in 1 Corinthians 11:1. He said, obey the ordinance, 11:2, obey the ordinances that I give you, man. So an ordinance is an order, instruction given to you at that time through the Holy Spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, man. Right? It reads, and Nehemiah had the Spirit on him to make this ordinance. It reads, also, we made ordinances for us to charge ourselves yearly with the 3rd part of a shekel for the service of the house of God. Now, when you go into the law, let's see how much you're supposed to actually give. Nehemiah say, look, we're making an ordinance and we're going to do a 3rd part. That's what we're going to do. Here's the law, right? This Exodus chapter 30 and verse 13. This they shall give everyone that passeth among them that are numbered half a shekel after the shekel of the sanctuary. A shekel is 20 gerahs, and half shekel should be the offering of the Lord. They say the half shekel. Nehemiah said in Nehemiah 10, we're going to do a 3rd part of a shekel. He said, that's our ordinance. A Mordecai said, hey, we got an ordinance. Every day, the 14th month and the 15th month of the Dar shall be a day of feasting and sending portions one to another. Let's do it. Hey, Judas Simon, hey, look, let's make a decree, right? That they observe the 25th day of the 9th month of Caslu, man. They make ordinances, man. You got men that the Most High sets up to just establish order. And it is what it is, man. Now, what if you say, hey, I'm not keeping Purim. Moses didn't give us Purim. Right? Well, you're going off. You can't say I don't have to keep Purim. Mordecai said we're doing Purim. Now, can you just say, well, that's Mordecai? Is that inspired by the Most High? Yes, it's inspired by the Most High. Yahushua kept the Feast of Dedication, and Judas, Simon, and Jonathan put that together. And that's not even in the first 5 books of the Bible. You know, keeping the Feast of Dedication, but Yahushua kept it. So that's why you have to understand how the Spirit works. You got it, Yaradan.
Proverbs 30:5. Every word of God is pure. You know, if he say it's a stain right there in that verse, I mean, you saying the word is impure. You're saying there's a blemish in the land. When you say this is impure or this isn't right, I don't agree with this. Well, now you're saying it's a stain. It's a blemish. It's a blot.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. Brother said something else on that.
But
All right. Okay. From Kazakia Banloya, right? Levi house. It's Luke chapter 1 and 17 contradict what Yahweh Shai said at St. Matthew chapter 11 and 14. All right. Deal with it. Brothers want to get in there. I can get in there. It don't matter. I'll read it, right? This St. Luke chapter 1 and 17. It reads, and he shall go before him in the spirit and power of Elias, which is Elijah, to turn the hearts of the fathers to the children and the disobedient to the wisdom of the just, to make ready a people prepared for the Lord. Right? And then in Matthew 11, right? Let me get that real quick. So one precept says in Luke that he would go in the spirit of Elijah, but Matthew 11 says what? Is this a contradiction? Matthew 11 and 14. And if you will receive it, this is Elias, which was for to come. So no, it's not a contradiction, right? They're saying the same thing. You know, it's just worded differently. You're going in the spirit of Elijah, and then in Matthew lets you know that is Elijah. You know,
yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And let me get this quick precept too. In Matthew, right, the 17th chapter. It's Matthew chapter 17 and verse 10. It says, and his disciples asked him, saying, why then said the scribes that Elijah must first come? And Yahushua answered and said unto them, Elijah truly shall come first and restore all things. But I say unto you that Elijah is come already, and they knew him not. So him is a specific person. You know, a spirit can hop on you and leave you, man. A spirit of anger can hop on you. You know, a spirit of, sorrow can hop on you and leave you. You know, you may have the spirit of Nehemiah, you getting stuff done, and then damn 9 weeks from there, you fall out the truth. So it says they knew him not. Him is a person which has a lot from the beginning to the end. But we all have lots. So you have to fulfill your lot as a man, right? It says, and they knew him not, but have done unto him whatsoever they listed. Likewise shall also the Son of Man suffer of them. Then the disciples understood that he spake unto them of John the Baptist. So John the Baptist is literally saying that he was Elijah. So when you go through the precepts, you don't want to get jammed up when you read the Gospels. Because some accounts may say purple, another one would say scarlet, and then that's where you got to go into the etymology. You got to go into the precepts. You don't want to just say, well, I like Mark more. Which one do you like more? And then you just pick which one you like more or which one you want to follow more. It's all the same thing. They're saying the same exact thing through the Spirit. Now, I may describe something different than one of these mighty brothers on here, but nevertheless, it's the same spirit we're moving in, and what we're all saying is the same thing.
And the latter part of that question, to add to it, is it safe to say that Luke didn't receive it? So I guess the brother's saying, since Luke didn't write that John the Baptist was Elijah the same way that Matthew wrote it, did Luke not understand regeneration? But Matthew did. I wouldn't say that. It's just written according to, like Arai was going into, according to how the Most High wanted them to document that account. Hey, Luke said he had perfect understanding in all things. Earlier in the beginning of Luke, the first chapter, hey, Luke was on a high level, man. Luke wrote with the Apostle Paul. So if anybody was on a level, not taken away from Matthew and Mark, even though Luke wasn't one of the 12, Luke was with Paul. That was Paul's camp through the Spirit. It was Paul, Luke, Silas, Timothy, Silvanus, Epaphroditus, and it was rolling deep, man. So, okay, Judah in the house. My bro just passed at 39. What precepts to read on in order to comfort the family and get understanding on his passing? He was not in the truth, but just learned we are Israelites. Sorry to hear that, King, man. Salaki. Right? Sorry to hear that, man. Right. Brothers got something. I got something. You don't got something.
Yeah, I got something.
Right.
Let's go to the book of 1 Samuel. Right. It's the book of 1 Samuel. Right, chapter 25, verse number 1. And Samuel died, and all the Israelites were gathered together and lamented him and buried him in the house of Ramoth. And David arose and went down to the wilderness of Paran. So, I mean, just gathering together with family. Somebody may not be in the truth, but just gathering together, like when Job was catching hell and he had that affliction. He made a set appointed time to mourn. Now, it are precepts pertaining to the righteous passing away, how the Most High may hide them, you understand, from troubles to come, or whatever the case may be, or precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints. But nevertheless, essentially gathering together to lament together could do a lot for your spirit, because, hold, like the Lord said, two are better than one. And through that family compassion and lamenting together, that does a lot for your spirit. Let me get that in Job real fast. I quoted it, but I wanted to get it. It's the book of Job, chapter 2, and verse, I'm going to start at 11. It says, now when Job's three friends heard of this evil that was come upon him. Now, essentially, the Lord rebuked a lot of these friends that he had, and only seemed fit for Elihu and Job to be the ones without blame, because they gave a lot of off counsel. But nevertheless, still these men came to comfort Job. It says, evil that was come upon him, they came every one from his own place. Eliphaz the Timonite, Bildad the Shilite, and Zophar the Naamathite. For they had made it appointed, so like an appointment together to come to mourn with him and to comfort him. So just hugging somebody physically, or having a shoulder for somebody to cry on, that'll mean the world to somebody, man. Somebody could be by themselves pouring out their heart and their spirit and their soul. You can have somebody that could hold them through that position, just like David comforted Bathsheba, man. Right when you go into 2 Samuel, the 12th chapter. After they lost their son, because I'm sure she was wailing, she was crying, she was sorrowful, she was catching hell, man. And David held her, right, and went in unto her and had Solomon. So that compassion of being there and lamenting with somebody is something you can do. An appointed time coming together. Also, comforting yourself with the precepts, right? I'm about to go after brothers. I know brothers got mighty points, but comforting yourself with the precepts. Because you may have everybody in your family that's not in the truth pass away, you understand? But through the comfort of the spirit of the Lord and the precepts, that's going to console you and help you. You got it.
I was speaking to a brother the other day, keep it a little anonymous, but there was a mighty dream he had in regards to someone he knew that passed. That person that passed, he ended up calling through and he picked up. Right, he's in the spirit world, and he got a phone call, and it was the guy who passed, and he said, "Don't worry, let me be at peace, allow me to rest." And it was I perceived it to be real comforting because when we give up the ghost, our spirit is really at rest, and that may be hard for us to understand and then comprehend sometimes, but that's the facts. Like their spirit is literally at rest, right? Consider your life in all of the trials and tribulations you have to go through. They don't have to go through those things anymore. They are at rest, right? So that peace of mind should allow you to, see it a little differently, hopefully. Allow you to understand that, okay, they're at rest, they're good, they don't have to go through what I have to go through. That's beautiful. And sometimes that gives us some type of reassurance. This is Sirach. It's like Ecclesiastes 4 and 12. Similar to what the brother was bringing out. It's beautiful to have company in the time of your distress. And it reads this: and if one prevail against him, two shall withstand him, and a threefold cord is not quickly broken. As long as you have righteous friends and righteous companions, then you won't be broken. And if you do feel broken, the Lord said He's nigh unto the brokenhearted. This is Psalms 34. I believe this is it. Psalms 34 and 18. The Lord is nigh unto them that are of a broken heart, and saveth such as be of a contrite spirit. Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivereth him out of them all. And you have to remember the things of this world is temporary. It's temporal. Even the trials, the tribulations, the things that we go through. You have to remind yourself it's all temporal. I have one more in Job chapter 2, verse 13. And it reads this. This is after all hell broke loose in Job's life. And when they lifted, I'll start at verse 11. Now when Job's 3 friends heard of all this evil that was come upon him, they came every one from his own place. These are true friends. They came everyone from his own place, and there's no telling how far they walked and traveled. Eliphaz the Temanite, and Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamathite, for they had made an appointment. They came together to say, hey, we got to help this brother out. They made an appointment together to come to mourn with him and to comfort him. That's mighty. Those are legit friends. Day one A1s. You kind of go through it now. Sometimes it's hard to find that brother to kind of reach out and call you and text you. You're just going through it. His 3 friends came together on one accord and said, yo, we have to help him. He's going through it. And when they lifted up their eyes afar off and knew him not, they lifted up their voice and wept. And they rent every one his mantle and sprinkled dust upon their heads towards heaven. So as that's saying, hey, whatever you're going through, I'm going through, that's in the scriptures. They didn't experience what Job went through, but they're acting as if they did, right? So they can relate to him, right? They have sympathy. They've rented off their mantle. It could have been a nice mantle. It could have been freshly sewn by their wives or whoever. They rented it and put dust on their head immediately. And it's like, and it says, sprinkle dust upon their heads towards heaven. So they sat down with him upon the ground 7 days and 7 nights, and none spake a word unto him, for they saw that his grief was very great. Sometimes just being around somebody, not saying nothing, that's the best comfort, So Lord willing, you have those type of people in your life that be able to, or that was, Lord willing, you have that type of company in your life, to mourn with you like that, like Job's friends. If not, you continue to reach out to the email, and we'll be your brothers.
And I wanted to make this last quick precept too, because we never know the mind of the Most High. The Most High may want to remove, one of our family members from us for whatever reason that is too high for us to understand. But when we read the scriptures, with so many accounts, it's the book of Sirach, chapter 30 and verse, number 17. Death is better than a bitter life or continual sickness. So if you have a bitter life where you're continuously homeless, you're getting jumped every day, you're in a hospital, you have cancer, stage 3, stage 5, whatever the case may be, of cancer, and you're waxing worse. You're in a situation to where you broke your legs, your arm, you can't move, you're in a vegetable-like state. Hey, sometimes it's a blessing, man, to go home to the third heaven, man. You don't want to continue to be in a situation. Now, nobody knows the breakdown of, why your brother passed away. You do, most are willing, but you never know the situation of how that person is suffering. And sometimes it's better, to go home than to live that continuous life, in sickness or a bitter life, man. A lot of people may be in a bitter state in a situation without hope. And that's hope getting out of that situation, being at rest in the third heaven, like you read about in the book of Job, the 3rd chapter.
And just to add, I just want to get one precept. Brothers bringing out beautiful points. This 2 Kings chapter 22 and verse 19. It's the Lord talking to the king, right? King Josiah. It reads, because thine heart was tender, and thou hast humbled thyself before the Lord. Like you said, your brother, just learned that we're Israelites, man. That take a heavy spirit to actually receive that and come into the truth, man. Not everybody can receive that and learn that. You could teach 1,000 people, but it's up to the Most High for you to actually learn it. Having a humble soul. The Lord said, when thou heardest that I spake against this place and against the inhabitants thereof, that they should become a curse, so I can become a desolation and a curse, and has rent thy clothes and wept before me. I also have heard thee, said the Lord. So the Lord see the spirit of your brother that repented, and learning the fact that he's an Israelite and actually accepting the truth. The Lord sees that, man. That doesn't just go for naught. Verse 20. Behold, therefore I will gather thee unto thy fathers, and thou shalt be gathered in thy grave in peace, and thine eyes shall not see all the evil which I will bring upon this place. And they brought the king word again. So when Josiah gave up the ghost and he disguised himself in the battle, that was of the Most High. The Lord removed him from the earth so he doesn't have to see the evil coming to the earth, man. The evil coming to his house. That's beautiful right there, man. That's a beautiful lot right there. We don't have to see the famine, experience stress, experience the pain, deal with the flesh, deal with Jacob's trouble, the destruction coming to the earth. The Most High said, I got you, Josiah. Don't worry about it. You don't have to deal with that, right? I'm going to remove you. Like he removed Elijah, he removed Enoch, and he essentially removed Josiah, right? Not with the same means of transportation, but in the same spirit. So I'm going to get that man out the earth, man. I don't want that man who's keeping the commandments to see any evil on the earth. Some men got to go through the evil, man. I don't want to see the evil on the earth, but hey, if that's my lot, then I got to deal with it. Josiah, he's sealed up in the kingdom, huh? Right? He's sealed up. And a lot of times, like I believe a brother put Isaiah 57, the Most High, he'll remove you from the earth so you don't have to see the pain and trouble. And you right up there with Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, man. So I just wanted to make that point. Was got anything else on that? And we praying for you, brother. No, we praying for you, man. Right? Like I said, we sorry you got to deal with that, man. Hey, Yaradon said it. Hey, man, look, if you got, if you don't have anybody there, hey, we there, man. Hit the email. Brothers, Yaradon talk, these brothers talk to brothers all the time, man. All the time. Right? Don't know them from nowhere, but, that's what we're here for, man, through the spirit. Not just the Esau kissing the boot, man. There's more to the truth than just Esau kissing the boot. Right? All right, let's move on. Get a few more. Okay, did I skip one? Let me make sure I didn't skip a question. Okay, yeah, almost skipped two. Okay, Malak Israel. Right, this is from 541. Right, 4 hours ago. Right, and we just getting to it. Like I said, we're doing our best. Right, we're doing our best, Lord willing. When Yahweh returns, and it appears he's been in the wine press, the elect has on their immortal bodies. Jake is dealing with Esau and holes in the dirt. What is Becca doing? And where are we living? Well, brother, I'm not too sure what you're asking, right? What is Becca doing? Now you saying is that Rebecca, the wife of Isaac? Did you kind of give her a nickname? Right? Is that a typo? We got to take our time with these questions. Trying to understand, what is Becca doing? And where are we living? Like I said, we want to take our time, right? Let's take our time with these questions. Make sure we kind of read it twice, put the right punctuation in there, question marks. All right, you know what the brother going into?
He might mean Mecca. Might be.
Mecca.
Maybe not. I'm not sure.
Damn, man.
And that be the thing too, because you know when I be doing Q&As like we did on the old channel, I go on a 5-minute breakdown on something that somebody may not even need, or you know what I'm saying, wasn't even expressing what they was going into. So like the brother said, man, you want to most definitely make sure you taking your time, because one wrong word could throw off, you know, what we bring out, because we'll interpret it a different way.
Yeah, and brother, if you still on here, man, just kind of rephrase what you're saying, and Lord willing, we can answer it in real time. When Yahushua returns and it appears he's been in the wine press, the elect has on their immortal bodies. Jake is dealing with Esau. And Esau and holes in the dirt. All right, so we just gonna move on. All right, we just gonna move on. Okay, Kazakya Bon Lord. The brother got a lot of questions. Put them in there. Okay, Malak Israel, you gotta rephrase what you're saying, King. I see you on here live. All right, we're gonna let you put that question. Just retype that question, King, and we could deal with it. Right? Just put it back and we'll deal with it. We'll Kazakya Bon Lord, we're gonna hold off on this one, and we're gonna let that brother want to know what is the female's role. Okay, so the brother, let me go back. So the brother want to know what is the female's role. So, okay, maybe that's Becca. Maybe. All right, so the female's role. All right, let's deal with it. All right.
Code word for Eve.
Becca. Eve and Becca. I don't. Boy, Jake, man, that's what that's going into. But Eve. I see that Becca, Eve, right? I ain't heard that one yet, man. Haven't heard that. That's what the brother said. That I ain't heard that one. Right? Damn, Becca. But let's get straight to the question. Hopefully that's what the brother going into. So the female's role, I guess, when he's asking when Yahushua returns, what would a female be doing, or the woman be doing, right? The daughters of Zion, right? What would their role be when Yahushua returns, right? Well, let's go to the book of Ezekiel, the 20th chapter. Well, they're going to get, first of all, let me get this precept real quick. And Jeremiah, right? This is Jeremiah chapter 30. And let's see, I believe this. Bear with me 1 second. I want to get this precept. It's like in Jeremiah 31 and verse 7. It reads, "For thus saith the Lord, sing with gladness for Jacob, and shout among the chief of the nations. Publish ye, praise ye, and say, O Lord, save thy people, the remnant of Israel." Right? Behold, I will bring them from the north country. Now, the north country is speaking about America. And gather them from the coast of the earth. Right? And with them the blind and the lame, the woman with child, and her that travaileth with child together, a great company shall return thither. So you're going to have women that are pregnant. Well, a lot of women, I don't know if I'm pregnant, if I'm going to survive Jacob's trouble, I'm pregnant. What did the Most High say? The Most High said, hey, women that are with child, they're going to get beamed up. Right? With children and women that travaileth with child, they may be 8 months pregnant, 9 months. Hey, they're going to make it too, man. Even women that aren't pregnant, man. Even the 7 women that are Israelites that may have cleaved to a man, hey, they may make it out of this thing, man. Right? So women will, it's not just going to be a kingdom. I heard a brother say it's going to be just 144,000 men living forever. No women. Well, brothers might scratch their head at that one. Like, no woman, 144,000 men. Nobody else, just those men forever. Right? No women, no children. Right? I mean, all praises to the Most High. But, hey, look, women are going to be there, man. Women are going to be in the kingdom, but they won't have the same role as men. Right? They're going to be there. I know brothers want to get in there, and I got a precept after brothers.
Where I get in there? This is the book of Psalms, chapter 48, right? In verse, I'm gonna start at this whole chapter, going into the kingdom. This Psalms chapter 40, I'm gonna start at 11. Let Mount Zion rejoice. Let the daughters of Judah be glad because of thy judgments, walk about Zion, and go round about her, tell the towers thereof, mark ye well her bulwarks, consider her palaces. So the women are going to be considering the palaces too, man. It isn't just going to be the men walking around Zion and seeing everything, man. That's off, right? I mean, where are they going to go? It says, verse 11, let Mount Zion rejoice, let the daughters of Judah be glad. So the same way the men are going to be turning up, the men are going to be happy, the men are going to be singing the Hebrew, the men are going to be praising the Most High, so are the daughters. It says, walk about Zion and go round about her, tell the towers thereof, mark ye well her bulwarks, consider her palaces, and ye may tell it to the generation following. So how in the kingdom, when it's talking about palaces and going around about Jerusalem, are we going to tell it to a generation following if there aren't women? So there has to be a generation following to be talking about this. For this God is our God forever and ever. He will be our God even unto death. Our brothers got it.
Hey, and did not remember when the men went to war, and the women they were waiting on the men and they were praising the Most High. They said David slew his Saul slew his thousands and David his 10,000s. So the women are going to be specifically when Yahweh returns and they're beamed up and placed in the wilderness and we're taking the nations down, the women are going to be there, right? But they're not going to be going to war, right? They'll be with the Lord and they'll be with the angels and they'll have that protection, but they're not going to be hunting the nations down. In terms of when Yahweh immediately returns, they're going to get beamed up. In terms of Jacob's trouble, the Most High is going to preserve them too, right? Rather they have a husband, rather they don't have a husband, right? Or rather they're, like I said, 7 women that cleave to one man. Now I'm going to get this in Judges chapter 5 and verse 28 to show how things were done in the ancient world when the men went to war, right? Judges chapter 5 and 18. Now this is speaking about Sisera, right? The mother of Sisera looked out a window and cried through the lattice, why is the chariot so long in coming? Why tarry the wheels of his chariots? Because the woman was waiting for the men to come back. She said, why is my son? She didn't know her son died. But it shows you that the woman was waiting for the men to come back with war from the war, so they could celebrate and turn up. She wasn't going to war. The woman in the ancient world didn't go to war and fight, man. There was no G.I. Jane. There's no G.I. Jane in the time of David, right? It reads, her wise ladies answered her. Yea, she returned answer to herself. Have they not sped? Have they not divided the prey? To every man a damsel or two. So they said, hey, did my son take women captive, man? That's what the woman was thinking. I hope he brought women captive. That's what the mother said. I hope every man took 1 or 2 women captive and bringing them back. And they was turning up in the ancient world, they was turning up when they saw Jake coming back and men was killed and women was in captivity. You didn't have women. Oh, who is she? Oh, I can't stand you. Right? You always coming back and bringing back you always do that. Right? First it was the Midianite and now it's the Cushite. Oh, I can't stand you. That wasn't going on in the ancient world, man. The mother said, have they not divided the prey to every man a damsel or two? She said 1 or 2. To Sisera, a prey of diverse colors, a prey of diverse colors of needlework, on both sides, meet for the necks of them that take the spoil. Right, so you have women in the ancient world that was rejoicing and looking forward to the victory of that particular nation. Now that heathen did that. Our foremothers was waiting for us to turn up when we destroyed the Philistines, and they were singing songs, man. You know, making sure stuff was ready for the men. But they're not going to, like I said, they're not going to be going to war and putting the nations in captivity. That's going to be given to the Lord said in Ezekiel 34 and 31 that the flock of my pasture are men. Right now, women in the kingdom, they're going to have their own role. But in just in terms of this question, the destruction, and when we put the nations in captivity, That's what the women are going to be doing, right? Just abiding in their leisure, protected by the angels, protected by the Most High. Have men stay back. You have men stay back, right? But that's what they'll be doing. There's not a lot of details, but just to say they won't be going to war. I don't know if brothers want to get in on that. It's not, like I said, it's not a lot of details. Are they going to be making the guard? Are they going to be, like I said, you can't really specify in great detail. Brothers want to get in there?
Kind of similar to what you said. It's not going to be in great detail.
Right.
But reading the scriptures, we can extrapolate and use wisdom of what they might be doing, because again, the roles of the woman, never really changes throughout time. It should always remain that our women be like our foremothers, especially moving the same spirit and mindset. So if it was wise in her heart to know how to spin goat's hair, like it says in Exodus, then so shall it be in the kingdom. I mean, I don't think they're gonna be like, I gotta do this in the kingdom. Boring. I mean, most time I might turn the spirit up to do it in the kingdom and have fun doing it. I know a lot of sisters, I don't know a lot of sisters, but I knew certain sisters, they like they like doing the goat, doing the sewing,
And two, I was looking for this precept. It's a precept that say that the Most High will put a spirit to protect the land while the women are in it, while the men go up to Jerusalem 3 times a year. But nevertheless, it just goes to show you that the men are going to be gone, but the Lord is going to put a spirit. I got to find that precept to keep the enemies out of the land, to protect the women, while the word of the Lord is going out. Men's business.
And even when you read the book of Numbers, the 32nd chapter, and various precepts that deal with the Reubenites and the Gadites and the half a tribe of Manasseh going to war with their brethren, the women, the little ones, and the cattle and the children, they all stayed back in that land, man. And the men conquested the land of Canaan, but they let the women and the children stay there. And they dealt with the cattle, they dealt with the land. You had women buying fields, man. They were bringing water from the well, and they took care of the children and things of that nature, And then the men came back when you read that account in the book of Numbers and in the book of Joshua. But let's see. Was there anything else on that? Real quick, this on Numbers 32 and 26. Our little ones, our wives, our flocks, and all our cattle shall be there in the cities of Gilead. So they left their little ones, because you're going to have men that may not be of age. The law says you got to be 20 to go to war, right? You may have young boys, young girls, women, right there, and they're just going to be behind. Like I said, the exact details of what they're going to be doing, we can't superimpose opinion into the scriptures, right? Certain things, like I said, it's not mentioned in great detail. I have not seen nor ear heard the things that the Most High has prepared for them that love him. But like Yaradan said, extrapolation is also wise to a certain extent. You understand, because you understand what our foremothers was doing in the ancient times. Okay, let's move on. Okay, same brother, right? From Kazakh Yahweh. It's like a Kazakh Yaban lawyer, right? Kazakh Laban lawyer. Since Solomon is Yahweh Shai, does that mean being crucified with judgment for his sin? I can get in there. Brothers want to get in there.
It don't matter. I'll go after you if you want to get in there.
Okay, Khan. Let's go to 2 Samuel, right? The 2nd chapter. Because yes, in fact, Yahweh Shai did not only appear on the earth in the book of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, right? This is 2 Samuel chapter 7 and verse 12. This is Nathan the prophet speaking, right? It reads, and when speaking to David, and when thy days be fulfilled, and thou shalt sleep with thy fathers, I will set up thy seed after thee, which shall proceed out of thy bowels, and I will establish his kingdom. Now, you may say, okay, well, that's talking about Yahushua, is it talking about Solomon? Let's find out. He shall build a house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. Nathan told David that he would have a son, and his son's kingdom would last forever. Did Solomon's kingdom last forever? No. Around 970 to around 930 BC. Some scholars say 971 to 931 BC. 40 years was Solomon's kingdom, and it was over, and Rehoboam reigned in his stead. So this cannot be talking about Solomon, because Solomon's kingdom was not forever. Let's read on. Verse 14. If he, Slakia, I will be his father, and he shall be my son. If he commit iniquity, I will chasten him with the rod of men and with the stripes of the children of men. Now, hold on. Now, you may say, okay, that is Solomon, right? Now, when did Solomon commit iniquity? Well, Solomon committed iniquity when he served the gods of the other nations, right? When he got older up in age, and 1 Kings 11:1 makes it plain that he began to serve the gods of the Edomites, the Moabites, and all these other nations, man, the Ammonites. Now, Solomon did commit iniquity, but where's the account of Solomon being chastened with the rod of men and with the stripes of the children of men? Give me the account in 1 Kings chapter 1 through chapter 12 that gives the account of Solomon that shows that Solomon was chastened with the rod of men and with the stripes of the children of men. This is not there. Well, you can say, well, that's in the book of Acts of Solomon. That's in the secret book. That's not, there's no account of that. Right? So we know on a deeper level that it goes beyond Solomon. Now, when you go to the Isaiah 53rd chapter, it speaks about the stripes that Yahushua received. Right? Solomon went off, but there's no account of him being punished with the rod and with the stripes of the children of men. Right? This Isaiah chapter 53 and verse 5. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. So Yahushua received stripes, being beat in his back. And we're being healed by the pain that Yahushua experienced. Now, that's a fulfillment of 2 Samuel, the 7th chapter. Right? Even Pontius Pilate in John chapter 19:1, he scourged Yahushua. Right? And with stripes. You understand? So, we're not going to do an entire in-depth regeneration breakdown, but the crucifixion isn't a punishment. The crucifixion was the lot that Yahushua had to fulfill, that the Most High swore to him in the book of Psalms chapter 110. Right? Now, the stripes, that links up with 2 Samuel 7, but just in terms of being crucified, it's a lot deeper than that. Right? It plays a role, but it's a lot deeper than that. You got it, King.
Con. I was about to get that precept. That's the spirit. But just to add into that, you can go to 1 Chronicles chapter 22 and verse 9. It says, behold, a son shall be born to thee, who shall be a man of rest, and I will give him rest from all his enemies. So the Lord said that he's going to be a man of rest. He's not going to be a man of getting whooped and beat and overcome. Huh? It says, a man of rest, and I will give him rest from all his enemies round about, and his name shall be Solomon, and I will give peace and quietness unto Israel in his days. So on all his days, he had peace and he had quietness. There was no account of him getting beat with scourges, man. That's not peace and rest. That's tribulation and oppression. So we know that his lot written in the scriptures, as we read, is not some hidden book like the brother was going into, because the scriptures say that he had peace and rest all of his days. So he would have had to fulfill that lot, because the Lord is not a man that he should lie. It's like the same spirit on another fold of Cain and Abel. Man, Cain didn't get away, right? Everybody got to account for their murders that they do. He's not the only man that just got away, man. He pulled one over on the Most High. He's coming back on the earth. He got to get judged for all his atrocities and crimes and murders and witchcraft, man. So we know that regeneration is real because the Most High is going to get up with you, man. You can't escape judgment just because you die. You can't escape judgment for God knows what reason, man. So we know that Cain, through the Spirit, came back on earth and he's going to get judged for all of his crimes and his sins. And we know that Solomon had to come back on earth as well, right? But through the Spirit, that was Yahweh and Solomon. But we know that his rest, and 2, I want to get another quick precept. In second, so like in 1 Kings chapter 4 and verse 24. This 1 Kings chapter 4 and verse 24. For he had dominion over all the region on the side of the river, from Tispasa even to Zava, over all the kings on the side of the river. And he had peace on all sides round about him. So all around about him was nothing but peace. So there's no one to overtake him, overthrow him, or destroy him in all of his days. You got it.
Con. And most brothers that have a Bible, regular KJV, Psalm 72 says a psalm for Solomon. It literally says a psalm for Solomon, right? It says, give the king thy judgments, O God, and thy righteousness unto the king's son. Now we all know David wrote this, but who's the king's son? Who is this talking about? It says a psalm for Solomon, but let's read a few verses in this chapter and see if this is actually talking about Solomon. Right? Verse, let's see, 8. He shall have dominion from sea to sea and from the river unto the ends of the earth. When did Solomon have dominion to the ends of the earth? Give me the time when he conquered the ends of the earth. Never happened. This never happened in Solomon's life either. In verse 9, they that dwell in the wilderness shall bow before him, and his enemies shall lick the dust. Give me the account of Solomon's enemies bowing before him in the wilderness. When did Solomon go into the wilderness? Never happened. He never went into the wilderness, man. That we know of, right? Where his enemies licked the dust. Now this says Solomon in everybody's Bible. And if you didn't know any better, you might charge this prophecy to Solomon. And like a Rob brought a beautiful point out, it says about Cain that he will be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth. Where's the account? Because, last time I checked, the Most High said he will not at all acquit the wicked. In the book of Nahum, the 1st chapter, right? Man, the Lord is going to get up with you. Did the Lord just let Cain get away with it? He was the only fugitive, only man that sinned, and he just got away with it. And he's just on the run. He died escaping the judgment of the Lord. He's still on the run to this day. And the Most High is looking for him. God damn, what did I do with Cain? That's foolish. Cain came back on the earth, whether you believe it or not, as Esau. Esau's that same fugitive, because a fugitive is somebody running away from justice. They're running away really from the law. He's always been running away from the law. That's why he sold his birthright, right? Esau, he's that fugitive on the earth, running away from murder and Abel. So he's back on earth. Remember when and that's a whole nother breakdown. After the flood happened, the Lord had to bring that seed of the wicked back on the earth. Wickedness had to be brought back on the earth. A particular seed line of wickedness, and the Most High brought it back through the loins of Isaac, man, through the Edomites. They're the wicked ones that came back on the earth after the flood, and we're the righteous ones that came back on the earth after the flood, the Israelites. All right. Was that something else on that? Okay, Khan, we could close up. Bring us some closing precepts.
Khan. And Most High willing, Jake was edified. Most High willing, the word went out and brothers was taking notes, right? And diligently searching the matter through the Spirit. And doing all they can do to ask questions, man. That's what this thing is about, to further the edification of the saints. Because, you know, just to be on here not taking notes, asking questions, or not remembering what's being brought out would be pointless. Most definitely with whatever school system or whatever, anything in life that you want to learn, you got to practice at it. You got to be diligent. Let me bring out this quick precept, and then I'm going to get my closing precept. This is very important, right? Let me get the book of Proverbs, chapter 4, right? And I'm going to start at 23. Keep thine heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. So the Lord said you got to keep your heart with all diligence. And your heart is your mind and what you think about and how you move in the spirit, man. You got to keep that thing with all diligence. Because your mind may want to drift away, may not want to be on fire. Your mind may want to do God knows what and defer you and push you away to your own pleasures and lusts through the flesh. But you got to keep it with all diligence, man. You got to diligently wake up every morning to go to work. Diligently read every day. Diligently fast every week. Well, this thing, it isn't easy sometimes, man. Right? It may be times where you may get home from work and just want to go to sleep, man. You've been working all day. But nevertheless, through diligence and pushing yourself through the spirit, you have to stay in this thing running a race. You don't just sit down in a race, man, because you're tired. You press forth to the mark, man, like Paul said. So most high willing, we can continue to do these Q&As, and most high willing, Jake was edified. Let me get this quick precept, last closing precept, in the book of Revelation, right, chapter 3 and verse number 2. It says, be watchful. And being watchful is a commandment. That's not something the Lord is just telling you to do, and it's just in red writing. Being watchful is watching the prophecies. You have to uncover what's going on in the world, man. You understand? Through world events, through earthquakes, volcanoes, world storms, right? The currency going down, all of these different things being overthrown, different alliances being formed. You have to watch these things. And most importantly, you got to watch your spirit, man. And watch your brother's spirits and help your people, man, your household, your wives, and your children. It says, and strengthen the things which remain that are ready to die. And that goes into examination. For I have not found thy works perfect before God. Remember, therefore, how thou hast received and heard, and hold fast. So don't be lukewarm in this thing. Don't withdraw yourself from the doctrine that you've learned through blasphemies in the last days by false apostles, man, in the workings of the flesh. And wanting to serve your own flesh, so you see the scriptures differently. Or you make yourself, God knows what, by denying what you have learned that you know is truth, man, through fables. So the Lord says, for I have not found thy works perfect before God. Remember, therefore, how thou hast received and heard, and hold fast, and repent. If therefore thou shalt not watch, I will come unto thee as a thief, and thou shalt not know what hour I will come upon thee. So if you're not watching and remaining diligent, the Lord is going to blow out your candlestick in the obscurity of darkness, man. And you don't want that to happen to you with all of this work you've been doing as far as reading, praying, fasting, and trying as hard as you can to remain diligent. So maintain your good works and strive to perfection in the last days. And if you need help, man, reach out. Ask for counsel, ask for help, pray, fast, do whatever you can do to stay in the spirit, because you can't say you wasn't warned by the servants of the Lord. Brothers, God.
This is Luke 7:23. And blessed is he who shall not be offended in me. Right? You're going to be a blessed man and or Israelite woman, right? If you're not offended in the Lord. Because a lot of questions that was answered tonight through the Spirit, brothers and sisters may not have liked it. And, they may feel some type of way about it. I mean, you didn't hear us bring out, our own mortal man thoughts. We brought out nothing but the precepts. So if you didn't like the answer, you really didn't like the precepts. You didn't like the word. And, you not liking the word is not liking Yahushua. So, God,
that's right, man. And all praise to the Most High that the Lord allows us to do these Q&As. And because one question, like I said, we touch on, it allows us to touch on so many different topics and, pretty much magnify the edification. And one person's question may be, 20 other people's question, man. So it's very profitable to do the Q&As every now and then through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. Well, like I said, if your question wasn't answered, don't forget that we do have the email We have the Cold Cuts Resurrected channel that brothers should be subscribed and hip to, where we do Q&As throughout the week. We also have the social media pages, so don't feel left out as if your question was just cast to the wayside, right? We do, we do have other means, right, to answer questions. But this is Revelation chapter 22 and 12. It reads, behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me to give every man according as his work shall be. So the Most High is coming like a thief in the night. Don't set your heart on this earth. Don't set your heart on this world. I believe Yaradan said it earlier as precepts. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, 16 on down speaks about the things of this world are temporal, right? The things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal. Sometimes, brothers, you get too caught up in the world, you lose track and focus of integrity, of being diligent, studying. The Lord is going to render unto you according to your works, not how much money you try and get and how much women you try and get, man. Right? If that's your works, the Most High is going to get up with you on those works too, with destruction and just outright plagues, man. But if you're diligent and being obedient to the law, commandments, the statutes, getting your house in order, getting your marriage in order, getting your children in order, if you have those different things, making sure you're fasting and praying, the Most High is going to reward you according to your works as well, man. Right? So be diligent. All of the labor and work you're doing, there's a reward for it. So, don't faint in the middle of this race, man. Right? But with that,
Salakia. Somebody said we need more brothers to come to do the work in Little Rock, Arkansas.
yeah, that's the brother. He over the camp in Little Rock, mighty brother Joshua.
Okay.
Right? That's right. You brothers in Little Rock, y'all get up with the brother Joshua, man. He out there putting in the work, right? And every brother should be doing the work of the Most High, man, in some form or fashion, right? Ask yourself, are you doing the work of the Most High, right? And if you ask yourself, well, what do I do? Hey, inquire if Yahweh Shmi Abashah, man. Link up with a congregation to help brothers to help you out, man. But with that, we're gonna close up, brother Naquan.
Shalom, brother White.
Brother Yardan.
Khan Shalom.